looks like. Cars are rolling, Graham.
There's one other point to make, which is there has been a degree of controversy about this series in the lead up to it, particularly about the LMP3 cars being here. Everything I've seen, and in all the conversations I've had with everybody in that paddock, this is no threat to the wider international endurance community.
No, it's an addition.
It's not only that, it's an opportunity. And what it gives us is the opportunity to fill a gap that's been there, which is to allow teams and drivers, and manufacturers for that matter, to develop their skill set to climb the ladder. It's an excellent addition to the family.
Now, this is how they should be lining up. Effectively, the way they finished yesterday, which puts the Graf Leisure, the number 12 car, on pole position, with Frank Martelli starting the race. Peter Cox is starting the number 48 Cox Racing car alongside it, another one of the Leisures. On row 2, it'll be Century Motorsport, the 51, which has Dan Mackay
first of the
driving it, and in fourth position, the 55 has JT Kapal in the CWS Motorsport. On row 3, Edex Sport Racing and Craft Racing 85. The Graf 57 is on the outside of row 4, 7th position, alongside AUH Motorsports, who were third yesterday in the CN category. What a last couple of laps that was. Avalon Formula and Simpson, or should I say the other way around, 50 Simpson and 46 Avalon Formula on row 10. Row 11, the 80 of GDL Racing Team Asia and Craft Racing's 82. Simpson's 52 car struggled yesterday, and that's why it's starting down in row 7, 13th position, with the Atec DXB, Atec Dubai 56 car in 14th position. 15th position, Optimum Motorsport, number 54, should have alongside it the 45 Avalon Formula, but it's not here.
It's here, but it won't. I don't believe I can see it. In fact, from our vantage point, won't be racing today. Why? Because it was sold yesterday. Actually, Ivan Bellarosa, the one of the principals behind Wolf Racing Cars,
there was business being done here.
Absolutely, brought the second car here to demonstrate it to a potential South African customer. Liked it so much, bought the car on the spot.
I'll have it, wrap it, charge it.
Exactly right. And there'll be, by the way, some news to come in the weeks to come from here before we get into the 12-hour races of developments from Wolf.
HHC Racing are the final car on the grid. They had problems virtually the same time as Optimum Motorsport. Did we get a green flag there, or are we on a second lap? We are on a second lap. Let's check in with Nick Damon, who is down in the pit lane. Nick, good morning.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Graham. Good morning, everybody. I am powered by Cafe Nero coffee, so stand by. Lots of stuff. Just say to the end, a couple of things. First of all, it is very muggy out here, but a lot cooler. And of course, we know there were cooling issues. I'm going to try and do a quick doorstep with the man from the car starting last, which is Charlie Roberts. And Charlie, lots of problems yesterday for the HHC car. Give us an idea of what you did overnight.
Well, it wasn't. Well, it was an engine change, so we found a problem. Well, the guys found a problem late last night, which we didn't realise after the race immediately, and they worked, massively hard to get the car ready this morning, yeah, so very thankful to them for getting the car back out. On track this morning. Kay is starting the car. Hopefully we'll have a good result starting from the back, but it's a long race, so hopefully we'll come through.
A lot of the Ginettas hit problems, most after the first hour. Did you see any correlation, or were they all unique events?
I think they were all pretty much unrelated. Obviously we'll have to go through each car and see what every problem was, and make sure it doesn't happen again. But sometimes that's just what happens in motorsport. New car, still development. So hopefully no more problems today, and we'll have a good result.
Fabulous, Charlie. Yeah, we all hope no problems with the G57s. Thanks.
Thank you, Nick Damon, down there in the pit lane. We are on our second formation lap. Graham, as well as the Avalon Formula, you've noticed another car that's not on the grid there.
Yeah, the 82 Craft Racing Norma, another of the, I have to say, myriad of cars that had all sorts of issues yesterday during the race.
We're not used to attrition, are we?
We're not. It really is an old-fashioned endurance race, this. I'm quite enjoying that.
Joe Bradley was loving it.
But the great part about it, and I think both Joe and Nick made the point from the pits yesterday, was that the teams were getting these cars fixed, turned around and back out there. So despite the fact that, frankly, I think all bar one car
got
in
to
that
the
field,
end of the race.
well, no, all bar that one car had a problem.
Yes.
far more of those cars got to the end of the race than probably we thought was going to be possible.
Yes, the car that won had a perfect
Indeed.
race. It only put in the 11th quickest lap of the race, but when you're being consistent and you're solidly within a couple of tenths of your fastest lap every lap,
Absolutely.
that's what it's about, and having no problems. Only the 2 pit stops as well. And one should say that getting cars back into the race is very much a Creventic ideal. You pay for your 3 hours, whether you come back on a tow rope, shortcut, get back into the back of the pit somewhere, get it fixed, get it back out.
You know what? It's a team sport. Creventic are part of your team, and that's the point. They see this as a customer sport. They want those customers to get the best value for money they possibly can because they want them to come back. It's a simple equation, really, isn't it?
It's
Cars
not
forming
rocket
up, John.
science. It really is not rocket science. The Audi TT, part of the Audi experience here at the Dubai Autodrome, is leading them round. It will accelerate out of the horseshoe. Turn number 14, over that tricky little brow as you transition into the right-hander at 15. It will stay to driver's right and dive into the pit lane. And Frank Martelli will bring the field around for part 2 of the 3x3 hours of the Hankook 3x3H Proto Series demo race, effectively, for 2017. I've had enough Cafe Nero coffee this morning to realise what year it is, and thank you once again to our friends down there. 2x2 getting ready. The green flag is out and we're racing. Oh, and it's a bad start from the front row as through comes Mackay. Dan Mackay in the Century Motorsport car down the inside. Little bit of hazy weather this morning, and the Ginetta will lead at turn 1 down the hill. Tricky braking area, and 1 or 2 people not getting their braking right there as they go through turn 1. JT Kupal has gone through into 2nd place for Colin. And the rest of the CWS racing team, Colin White here as well for the Hankook 24 hours. But what a start by Daniel Mackay in Century Motorsport, the Ginetta number 51. Now, can he hold it together coming round turn 6 and 7, which where he is now? Meantime, in 2nd position. Oh, there's a big battle there. That's been a fantastic start from somebody who was right along Kapal. You can see JT's car because it's very much the brightest of the Ginettas, and he's dropped back into 3rd position.
I think it's the 50 car, John. That was like a pack of lions on a couple of gazelles, wasn't it, after when they hit the trigger finger?
So that was Cronfley come through in the 50 car.
I think that was Cronfley coming through into 2nd place.
Well, as they go down in the braking area of turn 10, I'll get the binoculars out. Rather more like the Grand National than a racing series at the moment as they charge down. No fences for them to negotiate, thank goodness, as they field are on the far side of the circuit from us, and you can just see that little bit of dust in the air as the leader, and it is a decent lead. Now there is the 2nd place car,
the ATEC car through to 4th, so it's a Ginetta 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment. So there's been a big mix-up. What is that, the 50 or is that the 52? If that's the 52, that's an extraordinary start from James Winslow. Car 54, meanwhile, is getting a drive-through penalty.
That was late on, another car late on parade. All right, they're coming through past us now, round the final left-hand turner. It's turn 16, corner, as they come across the line. It is Century Motorsport. Now, who goes through in second? It is the 50. Always go with what you think first, Graham.
Absolutely.
As they rumble through. 3rd place, the 56, the ATEC DXB car. Then Kapal dropping down to 4th position. He was in 2nd place for Colin White. A moment or two, at least a moment or two, and straight into the pit lane then.
That's
has to take the 54 car.
That's to take that drive-through penalty, so it's
wait a minute, I get to say this. Car 54, where are you?
So it's Mackay leads the race in the Century Motorsport Ginetta from the Simpson Motorsports effort from Masson Cronfley. Then the ATEC DXB car, another car that's come through the field to hit 3rd position, and JT Kapal holds 4th in the Colin White Ginetta. Peter Cox, by the way, is the leader of the 2 Ginettas, the 2 Ligiers rather. He's in 5th position, ahead of Jason Sanders, and then James Winslow in the Simpson car.
3 different categories of car in this powered by Hankook Prototype Cup. The G57's running their own class. The P3 Ligiers, along with any other P3 eligible cars, would be in the P3 class. It is only the Ligiers here, and then the rest of the field made up by the CN class. Again, self-evident that that is for CN eligible cars, and that could be, as we have here, a number of different chassis, including Norma's, Wolf's et al, Radical SX3s, etc. So all cars that you've seen before probably, but I would suspect it's the first time you've seen them all mixed together. Possibly the only cars you haven't seen are the G57s, which are probably called G57 P2s.
Correct.
Because they produce a P2 level of performance with 580 horsepower, 900 kilograms.
And also completely different aerodynamics from the LMP3 cars.
Far more developed, yes.
Looks quite like a P3 car. It's based on the same chassis, but a completely different animal other than that.
So at the end of the second lap, it's Mackay by 1.2 seconds from in second place. Now
it's the ATEC DXB car,
and that's Smithy behind the wheel.
It is indeed.
That. Yeah, coming through. That's Ollie Smith, the
local Radical star.
Julian Griffin's put this together. He is from around these parts, although British by birth. He's resident here in the UAE. There is the second place car. Check that, the third, fourth and fifth place battle, with Peter Cox getting shuffled back down the field. And at the moment it's 51 from 56, 50 from 55 and 48. That's your top five, and that's 4 Ginettas and a Ligier at the moment. Now, the system of balancing this race and giving us the tremendous finish that we had yesterday, including a pass on the last lap for the CN lead. And this is down into turn number 10. Good dive down the inside by Sanders in the 57 car.
That's Jason Sanders.
Jason, who swapped across to the 57 car yesterday. Jordan Sanders, isn't it?
Sorry, apologies.
Yeah,
yes.
He's swapped out the 52 car yesterday and did a very good job, and he starts the car as he did in the first of the 3x3 races, coming from a bit further back because of their travails in the race. The start order set by the finishing order of the first 3-hour encounter here at the Dubai Autodrome. The red, white and blue of the Graf Racing 57 car that he shares with Lawrence Tomlinson, who presumably will be in next, and we are expecting Mike Simpson to finish the race off again, as he did yesterday. Very scary moment for Mike going down to turn 1 when he lost a left rear tyre.
Just to the point when that race was maturing nicely towards a real crescendo.
Nick Damon is in the pit lane. Oh no, thought I heard Nick Cummington was there, my apologies. So heading out on lap number 4 as the frantic nature of the start settles down and everybody's taking a deep breath. The way that performance is balanced here, the G57s are by far the quickest cars, probably 3 or 4 seconds
I think probably
a lap in general terms. The drivers will make a difference,
absolutely,
but if we talk
right.
about an average over the 3 hours, probably 3 or 4 seconds a lap quicker than the P3 cars, who are probably a couple or 3 seconds quicker than a CN car. Now, it won't always be like that because you'll have traffic and drivers make a difference. So how do you balance that out? Well, you could do a lot of things that would cost the team's time and money. For example, you could limit the power on the cars with restrictors. You could change ride heights. You could have aerodynamics, all of that stuff. That would mean the team would have to go and spend money and test the cars and potentially remap them or reset dampers. You could throw lead on the cars to try and get them all to the same speeds. Creventic have eschewed all of that methodology, as we're watching at the moment through the binos right in front of us through the horseshoe, the battle for 4th position. And it's Kupal and Sanders at the moment, JT and Jordan, CWS and Graf. They've eschewed all of those answers to that question, and they've said it's about time spent in the pits. Now remember, no fueling in the pit lane here. There's a fuel station, and that means the cars have to trundle down, turn right and fill up on a normal pistol grip. That takes a lot of time, and basically everything is balanced by the time from pit in to pit out after the fuel station. 2 mandatory stops within the 3 hours. That must be for the G57s 7 minutes each. Yes, it sounds like a long time, but the fuel is probably somewhere near half of that. So everything else in the pit lane is going to look very, very leisurely. For the CN and the P3 category cars, it's 4 minutes 40 seconds.
It's correct. It's 4 minutes 40. It's 440 seconds. Hang on, 280 seconds against 420.
Yeah.
So that's how it's done, and it was pretty close to it.
2 of those stops mandatory.
They can stop however often you like in this 3 hours. Obviously, the key to it is staying out of the pits, but 2 of them have to be to that limit, John. You're absolutely right. And changing the lead, by the way.
Changing the lead. Smithy's gone through. Yes, he has. As we were just keeping an eye on that battle further back down the field for 4th and 5th. Dan Mackay has been usurped and drops a couple of seconds, but a fastest lap of the race, 1:55.3.
That's pretty quick at this stage.
That is very quick. We had the cars in qualifying down to 51, low 51s, and that is less than 10 seconds away from the outright lap record here, and the fastest that a prototype car has ever been round here in any kind of competition.
Absolutely right. So 1:55.379 puts it 2 seconds ahead at the end of that lap. They're coming round to complete the next lap. This will be their lap 5, and it's the ATEC DXB Ginetta now leading a train of 6 of those cars. They're cycling through. Then come the 2 Ligier P3s. Then we get into the CN cars with a couple of Ginettas in amongst them. The HHC car that we heard from Charlie Robertson earlier had an engine change overnight. And then back at field, it's James French in the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta. There's a story about James and co being aboard that car today after having had that drive-through, correct?
Yeah.
1:54.1 now from the ATEC car, pulling clear, and almost 5 seconds to the good now. And that really is them checking out and heading for the dunes.
Heading off into the mist. Tell me about this James French story. This is interesting. They should have been here yesterday, actually.
They should have been here yesterday, but there was a travel difficulty for them in that car, and in fact they've not changed the entry list for that. But it's James French,
the 54 car,
and I'm trying to recall his colleague from Performance Tech over in the States. But 2 of the guys that were at the Roll Before the 24 in Daytona over the weekend in an Orica PC car are here racing a very different prototype, but equally with the same Chevy LS3 engine in the back. And that's all to do with, I think, conversations. Don't get overexcited about whether or not this has got something to do with car sales and Ginettas making their way to the United States. That may well be the case in the future. There's other stories brewing there. But this is James French looking after one of their customer drivers and looking towards the future and programmes for that young man.
Fastest lap of the race again, down to a 54.1 for the ATEC DXB car with Ollie Smith behind the wheel. Rick Broikers disappointed that he couldn't get a decent run in this car. Power steering issues with the car, among other things, yesterday.
That was the major issue for that car yesterday, and it really did cramp their style from the off. But no sign of that recurring now. The guys were working on the car as I left the circuit last night, and that's clearly worked so far. 1:54.7 this time as the car goes through. 6 laps in the book now for the lead car, and the gap now 6.3 seconds. So it takes out another almost 2 seconds from the second place Century Motorsport car. It's 56 from 51.50, 55, 57, 52. The cars in the 50s are the Ginetta G57s.
Yes.
Then come the 2 LMP3 cars. Peter Cox, by the way, 13.5 seconds off the lead, but with obviously those 5 Ginettas between him and the ATEC G57, he leads the second LMP3 car by 5 seconds.
I know obviously that people who were in G57s yesterday were somewhat nonplussed about having to spend 7 minutes in the pits, but if they'd had a run, they would have won the race. Any of those cars,
without a doubt.
I think 7 minutes isn't enough actually for them to be parked up. The problem is, of course, if you don't have a run, and we still want a good race.
We most certainly do. I think ultimately we got that. You're quite right. We got a lead change in CN on the final lap. But, you know, this has got potential, and this can be tweaked. And I think that's the great thing here. We're looking here at 3 times 3-hour preview races for a series that will feature 4 12-hour races later in the season.
Yes. Now, a question that I was asked yesterday that I didn't know the answer to, Graham, I have to say that's not something we hear very often, John. Well, The University Challenge, don't put me on that, as our leader continues to complete lap number 7, as it will be in a quarter's time. Does the result in this race, and indeed any of the races this weekend, affect the championship, or is this a standalone?
It's a standalone. It's a standalone thing. This is proving a concept.
Wow.
It's a little like we saw in the UK the end of last season. There was a preview race at Snetterton for what is now going to be the UK LMP3 Cup. It's showing the teams, it's showing the industry, it's showing the drivers that it's not just one of those ones that appears one in the back pages of a weekly magazine and never hear anything again. It's a real thing, and I think what you're going to hear, what I've been hearing already, is that there are teams and drivers. The phone is already ringing in the Creventic office for teams and drivers wanting to hear more about this concept.
Certainly from the fan comments yesterday, from watching and listening around the world, albeit it was a Tuesday afternoon or early morning. Kyle Masson, by the way, is the second driver from Performance Tech. I should have been able to tell you that immediately, because he's been racing in IMSA with the guys all year. He's a very quick driver, and James French is a very capable pair of hands as well. By the way, talking of IMSA, thank you very much to Shea Adam for her coverage from the row before the 24 at apparently what for a Florida girl was a very chilly Daytona.
Got it for her.
And happy birthday today for Shea as well.
Is it?
Yes.
Go on.
You don't want to know.
Is it too ridiculously young?
Yes.
Damn. No,
although it has been a wee while since, it has been a new thing for me to be commentating on people whose birthdays are in the 2000s.
Oh, for God's sake. It's just not fair, is it? It's just not fair. Some positional changes out there as we've been talking about that. Bassan Crawford's gone through again into second position, the 50 car, ahead of the Century Motorsport 51, and a change as well as Jordan Sanders goes past JT Kapal and into fourth.
Finally,
so it's a reshuffle amongst the Ginettas. James French, meanwhile, is making his way back up the field after that drive-through and is now in amongst the CN cars, and in fact has gone by the HHC car, so the 54 car making rapid progress up the field. 1:53.9 now, fastest lap of the race.
55.6 though for James French with no practice time in this car.
Absolutely right.
That's
and starting
very, very impressive indeed.
And by the way, with traffic. Yes.
A 53.9 is, I think, the fastest race lap that we've had. As I said, we got down into the 51s, low 51s, 51.3 from memory in the qualifying session.
As has been pointed out by a couple of people on Twitter, it's quite nice that we've got these three races at different times of the day, because it means that the audience that we've got around the world have actually got at least one race that's actually quite comfortable for them. So good morning to Carol Brink and to Dan Hounsell, I know, are actually listening in.
The slightly misty atmosphere will be right up Carroll Street as she looks down on Monterey Bay. She'll be quite used to having a little bit of mist in the morning before the sun comes up. It tends to burn off here very quickly. The sun is coming up effectively behind the final corner, and a slow car coming into the pit lane.
It's one of the Ginettas.
Off. It is the number.
Is that the leader?
It is the leader.
It's the leader. The leader's in trouble.
Well, we saw this yesterday as it heads into the pit lane. It's not, it's a 53.
Apologies.
It's the 53. And Nick Damon is there.
I was just thinking I've had nothing to do and getting kind of antsy because I haven't had my chance to shine, love, in a completely empty pit lane. But
we've organised something for you.
Thank you very much, because I was just getting over lovely. Okay, this appears to be a tyre change. The front tyres both been changed. They're now doing a 4-tyre stop. Once again, Charlie's to hand. Charlie, what's the problem?
Just a flat spot, so we'll just come in and we'll change the strategy up a little bit. Still, we'll do a proper full stop, but we'll be a bit out of kilter with everyone else, but we'll see how it works out for the race.
So this one will be a full 7-minute stop. You'll have to make an extra one, but that'll just be a splash of fuel in it.
I'd imagine so, yeah.
Thanks, Charlie. Charlie Robinson there from the HHC car 53. So that's what's going on. Someone's had a bit of a braking incident.
Yeah, and slight drama as well for James French, who's had a bit of a spin but recovered and continues in the number 54 car. So that recovery drive from James interrupted just briefly, but he's back into the 154s this time around, so that didn't take terribly long. I wonder whether or not it was that car or whether or not that was the 53, and that's why they got a flat spot. Because it doesn't seem to have slowed him down any.
There's no ABS on these G57s, P2s. There's an option of traction control, although it is an aftermarket fitting, and most of the drivers, at whatever standard they are, have eschewed it to a greater or a lesser amount. What do you know about Ollie Smith? Anything?
I believe he is locally based. I think he's done great things in the local Radical Championship here, and I think he's a championship winner in the Gulf. So he knows prototypes and he knows this circuit, and they're very good things to have on your CV in this kind of company. So a bit of local knowledge is going to come playing to the fore. 11.7 seconds now to the good. It's been one heck of a run from them. Runs wide, the 54 car there in pursuit of that group. And by the way, he's outpacing at the moment Basson Cronfleet, who we know is an ex-Radical champion. So the two guys at the head of the field at the moment, both has local experience, both have raced Radicals with success, both at the moment are, well, putting on a bit of a display. It's good to see.
And you were talking about the audience changing. Andrew Brown is listening in the afternoon in Australia, listening and watching in Melbourne.
He's got good eyesight.
Yes, very good. Carol Brink, as you mentioned, on the left-hand coast of the Straits. Ryan Ziegler tweets at Specutainment, which is how you get in touch with us, at Specutainment, at DSC Editor. In the pit lane, it's at RC Racing for Nick and at Bradders 3078. Ryan says, one of the things I love about this, shorts in the pit lane, hashtag relaxed. Well, there's a very good reason for that, is there's no fueling in the pit lane, so you don't have to wear fireproofs. The fueling is all done at a fuel station at the end of the pit lane, and of course fireproofs are required at that point. So whoever gets the short straw gets to go and be dressed up for 24 hours in the race suit.
It should be said there are some aesthetic downsides to that.
Yes. Nick Notice never wears shorts in the pit lane.
I'm just hoping we don't get anybody kind of 1980s football stylish shorts, because that would be completely uncalled for.
Joe Bradley yesterday with those 1973 FA Cup winning shorts from Sunderland.
Absolutely.
That was... It wasn't a good thing. It kept me awake for most of the night. Let's run down the class leaders. In 7th position, Peter Cox leads the P3 class. He's about 9 seconds ahead of the man who started on pole position, Frank Martelli, in the Ligier. So that's 48 from 12. In CN, there's a good 20 seconds now from Craft Racing's number 85 car, with Francois Kerman at the wheel of that. And in second place, the Avalon Formula Wolf is being driven. That's the 46 car.
They have changed the driver lineups there for today, so that the drivers from yesterday will not be correct. Mr. Bellotti is at the wheel of the 46. He drove the 45 yesterday. So let's wait and see. Into the pits, by the way, from the 56 now. That is the leading car. But the lead car is in the pit lane.
Andrew Cooksley is listening from New Zealand, taking a break from recording an album to watch the race. An album of what, Andrew? You may have to let us know. Nick Damon, what's going on?
Yeah, with the 56, sorry, they are having there's something feels wrong about it moment. It came to a stop. The engineers have leapt out and waggled all the wheels to see if something's loose. They're now looking under the car. Nothing has happened. I assume they're going to turn this into one of their stops as well. Rick Broikers, one of the teammates. Rick, what's the problem with the car?
I have no idea. We don't have any radio at the moment, so yeah, I cannot disturb the team. I will find out later.
Thanks, Rick. So no radio. We've had a couple of the car people complaining about lack of radio in the car. That's nothing to do with the G57, just to do with installation issues. but they are now having a very static look. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people stood around that car.
That was funny watching you. It was funny watching you actually counting that. We were
using fingers, I saw. Yeah.
I would like to say there's a fantastic pair of trousers on display in this pit team. I'll see if I can get Sebastian to film the trousers. Sebastian, we need to look at the trousers because they are out of kilter.
Now
they're not pyjamas. They are actual, I think, proper mechanics trousers in a kind of tartan thing. It's like
puce tartan.
I think it's like laminate menu napkin restaurant.
Oh, very good. In a light purple puce and white colour.
And the engine cover comes off, so they are now chasing a bigger problem. But we'll leave that one there. They've got a few minutes, of course, and now they're looking at drivetrain issues. So given the fact this car is going so well, how well will it go without a problem?
That's a good point, Nick. Thank you. Nick Damon down in the pit lane. Joe Bradley will take the middle stint in the pits. Half and half, I'm being told now. That's a change of tactics from our pit reporters from yesterday. So it will be an hour and a half. They're building themselves up to the 24 hours and taking longer stints in the pit lane. Full coverage of the 24 hours, of course, here on Radio Le Mans and on the 24H series.com website in sound and vision for the whole race. The rest of the sessions we hope to be able to bring you audio coverage as well on that, as we have done in the past. And midweek motorsport at its usual time of 8 o'clock UK. That's 5 o'clock on the East Coast and 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the West Coast of the States. That will be from here as well, of course. And we do have an interview with new Bentley boy. Sorry, it's 2 p.m. on the West Coast. My apologies. We do have an interview with new Bentley boy Ollie Jarvis. And he said Ollie Bryant there for no reason whatsoever. Ollie Jarvis.
You'd be surprised. One, he's not done an interview, and two, he's not driving for Bentley.
He's jumping up and down in the morning. He's listening to Ollie Jarvis spoke to us, very kindly spoke to us on Saturday before the news was made public, and obviously we were happy to respect the embargo from Bentley Motors, and it's very interesting. Much as if you've read the interview on DSC where he talks about Audi, there's a few questions about Audi and his relevant experience as he comes into this GT3 program. Desperately excited about ridiculously excited about going to Bathurst.
Well, I mean, his first laps in the car are going to be around Bathurst. But before we get into that one a little bit more, John, we have got some changes underway. James Winslow in the 52 Simpson car has just gone by the Century Motorsport 51 into third position. Is going very well indeed, but closing in for the lead. Let's not forget, with that pit stop for the ATEC car, Bassan Cronfley in the 50 Simpson Motorsport car goes to the lead, but is being closed down now by Jordan Sanders. 1.3 seconds back, 13 laps and just around half an hour in the books already.
And I got all the midweek motorsport times wrong apart from the UK. 8 p.m. in the UK, 3 p.m. on the East Coast and midday on the West Coast. Sorry, I was translating other times in my head there.
I'm not going to promise at the moment, but I hope to bring an absolutely massive sports car racing exclusive for that show.
Is it the one I think it is?
Yes, it is.
Ooh, right. Okay.
Can I just say LMP1?
No, there's no time because we have cars being lapped on the track, and the 51, which is the Dan McKay driven Century machine, just going past a gaggle of CN cars there.
Fastest lap of the race, meanwhile, goes not to on the leading group, but for the recovering James French, 1:53.912.
I did tell you he was pretty special, didn't I?
Indeed. Under a minute back now from the lead. Obviously, he's got cars still to deal with in both CN. The two CN leaders are still ahead of him, and both P3 cars are still ahead of him. But James French making good progress now, and that's going to be one to watch in the next half hour or so, I would guess. We're expecting the regular pit stops to be around the hour mark. That's when the ideal would be. These cars can do around about an hour on the fuel, and of course with 7 minutes in the pits for the G57s and 4 minutes 40 for the P3s, that's about ideal timing for them. 1:54.5, by the way, fastest lap for the number 50 car in the lead as he tries to fend off, and at the moment successfully fending off Jordan Sanders.
Now, I've just looked up Ollie Smith, and I commentated on him in Formula BMW in the UK about 15 years ago.
I'm disgusted you forgot that.
Yeah. He also did a bit of Formula Ford and Formula Renault. So Nick Damon would have probably spoken to him in a pit lane somewhere, Nick, if my timings are right. That's back in us working on ITV in Talker days, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. That's when I met you, John. I'm surprised there's a plaque somewhere in a bar near a track saying Nick and John met 2005.
Do you remember which circuit we worked out first?
I always think it's Thruxton, but it would have been the one. It would have been the one you filled in for Ben for doing the main commentary.
No, that was after that. That was 2008.
Ah.
By the way, cracking battle going on at the moment between the two white radicals. They're going back down that middle back straight, if you like, middle back straight.
Middle back, front, sideways.
Absolutely,
straight.
and they are at the moment separated by, well, it's tenths. It's the 80 car, the GDL racing car, and the AUH car, the 81.
And they're
cracking private battle.
4th and 5th at the moment in their class, so that is a class position. Meantime, JT Sanders in the Graf racing car, who until recently has been racing Spec Miatas.
Amazing stuff.
And has jumped in this car, and well, he's leaning on it. He's letting the downforce do the work as he should do. And behind him,
there's an amazing battle going on behind Jordan Sanders for 3rd position, and it's composed of 4 cars in 2 classes. Peter Cox hanging on to the back of a trio of Ginettas.
Look in the background. Yeah. If you've got just
just at the top. There you go. There's 1, 2. Where's the other 2? 3, 4. There they are. So 5.
So that is all the way down to Peter Cox in 6th position.
Change for the lead.
As what's
the lead has spun. The lead has spun at turn 10. Jordan Sanders has gone through into the lead of the race. So this is now the leader. That's why there are 5 cars, because he's now amongst that group.
Correct. So that's extraordinary. So Cronfley now in 2nd place, then James Winlow, then Mackay, then Kopal, then Cox, and those guys are pretty much together.
Oh, this is a corker, John.
10 seconds back from this car, the 57, the leading Ginetta G57.
Absolutely blinding battle there now. So this is shaping up to be something a little bit special this morning. This is what we're looking for from these little prototypes. 500 horsepower plus.
These are the prototypes we're looking for.
Absolutely.
And they are going about their business, I tell you that. Again, the point that we made yesterday, and accepting that some people will have watched yesterday, but quite a lot of people won't because of the difference in the times.
Absolutely.
That we're coming to you.
Shows a lack of kind of application, if you ask me, and commitment, correct.
The fact that we have a mixture of prototypes out here adds another dimension. You will have seen CN cars out on the track. You will have seen LMP3 style cars out on the track. However, we've not seen them all together. And the best way to learn multi-class racing is to do multi-class racing. 3rd in class at the moment. The number 17. That is the IDEX Sport Racing.
The winner yesterday on the final lap, taking the win in the class.
Now this is the Ligier as well, of course. This is the CN Ligier.
This is JS53.
Evo 2, obviously.
Proper state-of-the-art CN car, and these are not done in the marketplace yet. There's still development going on, and Ligier at the moment working on a Peugeot engine for their CN car. Absolutely.
Right.
And the other thing, of course, this news broke just a few weeks ago, working on another level of sports car racer for the club market with Phil Abbott, ex of Radical, now with Ligier.
Ah, that's very interesting. 2nd place then for the Simpson Motorsport number 50 G57. That's the Cronfley car that was leading, spun at turn 10, lost about 10-11 seconds, but is already making up time on the leader and took over a second out of JT Sanders, out of Jordan Sanders last time around. So it's 57 from 50, and then Winslow, Mackay, Kopal, Cox in close attendance.
56 back in the pits, I'm afraid, after taking that stop.
Ollie Smith at the
clearly wheel. Not all over the woes for that car. Another set of tyres coming out for the car as well. So Does he think maybe that's not been seated properly? Did they change tyres at that stop? I wonder if Nick Damon can tell us.
Yes.
I've been saying, John, I've got something to say.
Hey.
It's recurrence mainly of power steering issues. But now it's even better because they're intermittent. They are now doing a thorough check. They changed the tyres. There's also a check at the back. So I think that they're wondering whether it's a kind of a combination of things that's making the car feel unpleasant. But there certainly are, Rick told me after speaking with Ollie Smith, there are issues of the steering front. But yeah, it's again, a lot of people looking.
That's an electrical steering rack, so if that's an intermittent electrical fault, that could be it. Now,
Character building
I
stuff
have
here.
no idea how anybody. Well, I think Rick Breukers yesterday, didn't he? Said he tried to drive the car without this power steering, and it was far too heavy. The issue, it's not so bad with an electrical assisted rack, but the problem is these downforce cars, when you need it is when you're going fast through the corners. Now, I've driven a power steering rack car without power steering. It was a Mazda MX-5, and it was very, very hard indeed to race that car.
You're only a little bloke, though, in fairness.
I've hardly got any levers, any strength in the upper arms and upper body at all, to be honest. It's very hard indeed. I can't even imagine what it would be like in a prototype where the steering wheel is tiny, where you're lying down. Effectively, think of lying in a bathtub with your feet up by the taps. It's all forearms. You can't use your shoulders, and it's just not going to happen. And that's why these guys have had to bring the car back in. So Sanders then, by 10 seconds again, just ekes out a couple of tenths or so on Cronfley in second. 57 from 50. We are 35 minutes into this race. 57 from 50 from 52, and the top 6 separated by under 20 seconds. And that includes, by the way, hotting up.
That includes, by the way, the lead P3 car. We can see that car in the background there. That's Peter Cox hanging on.
Works on radio pointing.
Absolutely. Peter Cox hanging on there to JT Kapal. There you go. That's not run over those guys, by the way. They are just looking underneath.
No, they were there when it came in. That was where they left them. That's where they left them last night after the engine change.
Oh, dear me.
The good news is you could probably sleep there, actually, and not be so bad. Jack Shalowski tuned in this morning.
Okay.
Couldn't listen to us yesterday. The combination of 3 a.m. race finish and 8 a.m. classes.
Good morning, Jack.
Not working for him. Hello, Jack. Nice to hear that you are tuned in, watching and listening. And at the moment, if you are watching, you are looking at the business end of a G57 P2. That, as you will know, because you've been up close to one, is an LS3 GM, General Motors V8, that one producing somewhere in the region of 580 of your Imperial horsepower. Which I think is adequate.
Wakes you up nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Quick cup of Cafe Nero and then straight into your Chevy LS3 powered.
It has the same effect when they fire it up when you're standing next to it. Colin White is here for the 24 hours, also got the 55 in the CWS automotive colours, a very now well-known livery in British motorsport and becoming well-known as well in the international marketplace.
And really suits that car.
Oh, I think it does.
Looks superb in that livery.
And a graphic illustration coming out of turn 9 towards 10, where the big banger has the advantage, all that torque, and the G57 has the advantage over the LMP3 car, which was behind it. I mean, Peter Cox is not going to be backwards in coming forwards with the right-hand pedal, but the Nissan V8 in the LMP3 car not producing the same kind of get up and go there as we saw from the 55 ahead of it.
Indeed.
Different class of cars.
Absolutely.
Oh, huge slide there from the CWS machine with JT Kapal in it. Well, not frightened to slide that car around.
No, I stood in the stands because that's what you do in a stand. You stand. Yesterday,
Were you
just to
still
listen.
standing there?
Absolutely, for the first pre-practice session. What's nice as well is there's a different engine note between the Chevys and the Nissans, and I do like that.
A lot of people saying that even from the coverage, that they could tell the Ligier from the G57 and particularly from the CN cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I found spectacular here, as we arrived at the circuit yesterday, cars were on track. In fact, we popped out for some breakfast after a very, very late / early arrival Monday night, Tuesday morning, and you could hear cars on track. Now, these are big V8 engine cars. You could hear the cars on track, but not that much. It was only when you got into the circuit environs that you started to hear just how loud these things are. So whatever they've done here to kind of dull the sound from the circuit to the outside of the Motor City area here in Dubai, they've done it very well indeed. So the local residents will just have, just a nice V8 rumble in the background.
Yeah.
And
Peter Cox is absolutely on the wing mirrors of the P3 car that leads its class in 6th position, the Ligier.
He's been solidly in the 156s, which is pretty good going for a P3 car with, as you quite rightly say, less power and less aero against these G55s, and hanging on at the moment
Coming out
to
at
JT
12.
Kapal and to Duncan Mackay.
Coming out at 12 down to 13th, down to 13. And then 14 down to the pit lane. The ATEC DXB car still standing still.
But the engine cover is going back on the car. So is this car about ready to go out? There is one advantage, only one advantage. I'm just trying to claw something back to the team here, which is if they've solved the problem, they've now burned 2 7-minute stops. So they would only have to come in and do tyres and or fuel, and they could do that as quickly as they like.
Let's head to Nick Damon in the pit lane.
It's been really interesting because what's happened is the ATEC guys have been helped out by the actual Ginetta team. So they've pulled in the big guns, the manufacturer mechanics, and they've gone through a very interesting route of seeing what the problem might be. They've tightened up the all the nuts on the drive shaft. They've had the car at extreme angles, both leaning down to the front and leaning down to the right, using the air jacks. It's almost as though they think there's a sensor problem that's causing the power steering fault, which is why they're trying to work out whether there's a short, what's causing it. In the fact that the power steering's not the problem, but something appears to be upsetting it and causing the overall issue.
Interesting stuff, and you're quite right, Nick. The entire Ginetta Brains Trust are here. It's the guys that I'm used to seeing handling for the factory the customer efforts in LMP3 as well out in Asia. They've come back after action just over last weekend over in Thailand, so they've had one heck of a last 4 or 5
successful weekend.
1-2 for the ASC Bratislava team, and Mike Simpson bringing home the winning car, just 0.179 of a second ahead of the team's second car, the first ever win for Ginetta in LMP3 in Asian Le Mans.
You were talking about getting to your hotel very late after arrival. Did I hear, in fact, that several teams from the Dakar Rally currently in the deserts of Bolivia were on the phone to plead that Stephen Kilby was never let near any of their maps.
That's absolutely right. Stephen Kilby from DSC. Amongst his many talents, Matt Reading is not one of them. Matt Reading at 3 o'clock in the morning with an angry editor sitting next to him, certainly not one of them.
The Mark Thatcher of DSC.
Yeah, the only difference between him is he doesn't sell arms and he's not actually still lost.
Well, I don't know.
Good morning, Stephen. The press room.
Listening in. Morning, Killer. So you're listening and watching to us live from trackside. That is turn 1, if you can see the pictures. An awesome
into the
downhill turn, right-handed at the start of the lap, as into the pit lane comes Peter Cox.
Yep.
Now, still 2 hours and 18 minutes to go. This is a little bit early. Nick Damon
coming in and say, Peter, he's going to drive straight into the pit lane. The question really is he going to stay in and do a double? Is he going to change tyres? Is Nico Prog going to get in? There is no action from the car. They now come over there, and in this there's a helmeted driver. So it looks like Nico Prog is going to be getting in. Can't see if Cox is getting out. They're right at the other end. As I said yesterday, every single car, apart from Peter, is in the first 6 garages on pit in. Peter, just to make me exercise, has parked at pit out.
No sign of tyres being offered to the car quite yet, Nick. We can see from our vantage point, we can see you striding manfully down the pit lane.
Well, that's the lie. Striding mainly. But I'm definitely going to collar Mr. Cox as soon as I can, because he's always good for an honest opinion about things.
Yes.
behind me, we're about to get a little bit of a flurry as well with the G57s. A couple of tyres out on the apron. So it looks like the first hour, is going to be a short one.
Well, it's 43 minutes at the moment. So that is a very short. Peter Cox is out and doing his impression of the old Peugeot sock puppet man, leaning in to the right-hand side of the car as the replacement driver gets in.
We said that this had been a kind of it's a proving ground. This is really a proof of concept. Well, I wonder just how far one of those Ginettas can go on a tank of fuel, because we did get problems for most of the Ginettas yesterday. So can they do an hour on fuel, or do they have to do a splash at the end of the race in any case?
Yes, because none of those cars just did two pit stops, did they?
First one in is James Winslow aboard the now seemingly untroubled number 52 Simpson Motorsport car. James is getting out the car. It's been a good run for him. Back up through the field.
That was
up into fifth position.
Yeah, that was fifth position as he came in.
I think actually he was in third.
He was in third, yeah. And Peter Cox is dropping down behind him. So that was a good run for James Winslow in the Simpson car. It's still the Graf car that leads by 12 seconds. The lead just going in and out depending on the traffic. Fastest lap of the race for James French at 53.8.
Excellent stuff. Though in fact the 52 car, I can see from our vantage point, John, has got a mechanic in the cockpit facing the wrong way, so he's in the driver's seat.
Well, that's how much room there is in those cockpits.
So he's doing something with the belts, I think. I think there's maybe an issue with the belts on that car.
Did we not have that yesterday
we
as
had
well?
That maybe with Lawrence
Tomlinson.
He's quite tall though, isn't he?
Could be just the bigger driver.
It could be exactly that. They've got time. They have got time to do these things. So, you know, they don't have to, they can do a proper fix rather than rush these things, which is another advantage. Well, one of the very few advantages. The engine cover is off on that Ginetta, but that might just be, we talked, didn't we, yesterday about the potential for maybe the heat soak being a problem. Get the engine cover off, a little bit more air around it. Maybe that's something they've learned from yesterday.
Let's go down to Nick Damon.
Yes, we have got all the way down to Coxland, and Peter, go a quick word, Peter Cox. I'll ask you the first question.
Yes, the first one.
Where do you feel the performance balancing is between P3 and the G57s and the shorter pit stops you can have? It seems to be working quite well for you.
Yes, it seems to be working quite well. I mean, I don't know, to be honest, if I look at the cars in front. You know, I don't know what kind of drivers are in the car, but for sure the Ginetta is struggling with the tires. You know, in the beginning they are faster. They're anyway faster on the straight, but normally you would say on an average circuit is between 4 and 5 seconds normally what we have seen, which is fair. You know, that is the case. And here I thought initially it would be even more because you have 3 relatively long straights, but you see they go off in the distance, but then they fall back. And yeah, I mean, just look at the footage and see why the time difference is there, I would say.
So it's all about tyre management, do you think?
Yeah, it's tyre management, and I think how you handle the car and everything. You know, and I must say the Cox Racing Ligier is working perfectly. I mean, the car is very quick, and I must say you could see, you know, they were literally holding me up a little bit, but I didn't want to take any risks, and so I think we're in the right position.
It's great to see you here in Dubai with the 24-hour, but are you going to enter the full series with the car?
We don't know yet.
What will affect the decision?
I don't know. First of all, I mean, I think it's a great pilot from Creventic. I think it's definitely the series for them, you know, but as always with a new series, you have to look into a little bit how you're doing it. And, you know, I know that like here, there's not another solution. But my crew is standing all day here in the sun, you know, with any facility. And I respect that because this is the bigger race, the 24-hour. But, you know, you have to look a little bit at planning and scheduling how to do it. But for sure, I think the calendar they have with the 12-hour races is a gap in the market, as we say.
It's great to see your name on a race car, but of course the other big news for you over the past few months is you become a works driver for Acura. How is the Acura NSX going? How's that running at the moment?
I think it is okay. Obviously, it's all BOP depending, like always with the GT3.
And you love BOP, don't you, Peter?
I was just thinking, when I was on my stint the last 10 minutes, I was thinking, it's like driving with a bad BOP, you know, but because it pisses off in the distance. But no, I mean, you know, for sure there's a big effort behind the program, and I'm really proud and honored that Honda has selected me for, first of all, the development, because that I charge even as has a higher value, and then also that I can race the car as the only European. I'm really proud of that, yes.
Here, thanks. And I take it you're getting back in at the end of the race, yeah?
Yes, if we're still running, yes.
You will be. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, I think you will. Thank you, Nick. Nick Dermott asking the questions down there in the pit lane as we are live trackside at the Dubai Autodrome. Good to have your company. Race 2 of the 3x3R Hankook Challenge in the desert here at the start of 2017's motor racing season. Peter Cox for Acura in the NSX in the IMSA WeatherTech Championship.
He's in the Pirelli World Challenge.
In the Pirelli World Challenge.
For real-time racing.
For real-time racing. But we will see the Acuras in the WeatherTech series.
Yep.
Which first race for them is the end of this month. That's the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona, live here on our sister station of IMSA Radio on our second channel on the RSL network.
Bad news, I'm afraid, for the 56. It's gone around and come back straight into the pits. So whatever they've done has not quite worked yet.
IDEX Sport Racing in the pits as well.
That looks to be a routine stop, I think, for that car. This is the winning car from yesterday, as we said already. Took the win on the very final lap after closing in and passing one of the Craft Racing Normas. Taking 10 seconds out of the lead car in the first and the final 2 laps, rather. 56, by the way, is sent almost immediately. Now that car no longer has to do any more 7-minute stops. So if they can get that car running reliably, it could be a recovery drive. It's way down now, I'm afraid. But that way down, clearly, laps can be burned here simply with the pit stops that the other cars have got to do.
Lead second place in CN is the Bellotti-driven Avalon Formula Wolf. That's the 46 car, and this car again changing drivers from yesterday. It's Guillermo Bellotti, 45 car, which ran here yesterday, has been sold.
It has indeed, to a South African customer. I'm seeing it looking splendid under its awning. Across in the paddock, we can see over the pit garage towards
it. I'd like to buy a racing car, please. Would you like to race it? No, wrap it, please. Just
absolutely.
Wrap it.
James French, meanwhile, has now made his way back up into 6th position overall. Goes by the leading CN car.
Fastest car on the track again last time around.
Absolutely. As a mark of progress. Now, okay, we've seen the stop from the number 50, the leading car, and the ATEC car getting into problems. But James, I do recall a little while ago, was 1 minute and 13 seconds back from the leader. Now 52 seconds now back from the leader.
Why have they been in the pit lane? Did they do a drive-through?
Yes, that was very early.
Of course they did, yes. They did the early drive-through.
So it started from the back, plus a drive-through, and is back up into 6th position. Shows how quick those cars are, and shows how quick, in particular, James French is.
Yeah.
So he's got the fastest lap of the race into the 153s. We've got some quick men still to come in a number of these cars, including most of the Ginettas. Mike Simpson still to come. Charlie Robertson still to come. Bradley Ellis, I think, is still going to drive in that car, and was very quick indeed yesterday. Bradley Ellis and Charlie Robertson in the early part of the race put on an absolute display for us, didn't they?
It certainly did.
So the IDEX Sport car now, and the Simpson Motorsport car, the 52. So the 17 and the 52 in the fueling area. Both of them in the midst of one of their longer stops. So the overall order, 53 minutes gone, is 57. Jordan Sanders in the Graf Racing Ginetta heads a train of 4 G57 P2s, head of Basson Gromfley in the number 50 Simpson Motorsport car. Duncan Mackay in the Century Motorsport Ginetta, and JT Kapal in the CWS car. That's the G57 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the same overall. Then comes the race winner yesterday, Mattelli in the Graf Racing Ligier. We've already seen the Cox Racing car, and Nick Damon talking to Peter Cox just a few moments ago had led that class and had stuck with the Ginettas for a long time, and that car further down the order now, but will recover up the order as others pit.
I love driving cars with bad BOP. It's a t-shirt, isn't it? Peter Cox. Peter, always good. Still holds the Super Touring lap record at Thruxton for, I think, BMW at the time, and he got that because he was having such a bad race. He had to come in, he came in and put new tyres on, and
I was probably quite angry.
And then drove amazingly to get a point. And you know, at the end of the race, I'm trying to think who it would have been. Was it you?
Not me.
Doing talk radio interviews when you interviewed Peter Cox about he broke the lap record at Thruxton, fastest circuit in the UK.
Joe Bradley.
Joe Bradley is sitting next to me, and he said Super Touring era, and the fact that he said, yeah, okay, great, I've got the lap record, but that's only because the car was so rubbish and I had to stop for new tyres. He is sometimes a little black rain cloud, Peter.
Right, we're now getting into the kind of area where you will expect the cars. It's about just under 7 minutes from the top of the hour. We'd expect them to do regular stops with an hour's fuel, and the first to do that is JT Kapal. Comes to a halt now in the number 55 CWS car, and I can see Nick Damon is down there, mic in hand, and shades being a jaunty angle, I think. Nick,
no, shades are always worn flat. It's the cap that must be the jaunty angle for true British pit lane work. Yeah, the 55's come in, and looking down the pit lane, we're going to get his. The Simpson team will be in very soon from second. There are tyres also offered for Century as well, so that these cars much more dividing the race into 3 equal parts, unlike whatever clever tactics Peter has got. My guess is he's found out he's got extra fuel mileage, so he's trying to limit the amount of time Nico Prog's in the car. No offence to Nico, but obviously he's not as quick as Peter, and Peter's name is above the garage, so it's his car. Have it as long as he likes. And indeed, in comes this
Actually,
second.
it's not above the garage, which was the problem he had.
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
And it's not his car, it's Nico Prog's.
All right, don't get facts in the way.
Other than that, everything you said was entirely right.
That's top. That's what, 4 facts, 3 wrong. That's a. Do you want to word with JP Kapal?
The who?
Mr. Kapal. Oh, this has gone brilliantly. This is the world's worst pit lane insert ever, and I've got a few records to try and break.
JT Kapal.
That's
yes,
the one.
please.
I'm going to grab him. Hang on.
That'd
He's
be
wandering
great.
off. JT, come here. There we are. You see. JT, your second experience. This race going better than the last one?
Oh, much better. Yeah, I'm actually trying to pass and deal with positions and everything like that. There's a lot of traffic more because I was basically by myself yesterday. Today I got to have a fight with a couple of G57s, so that was fun. Yeah.
I understand this is a bit of a step up from your previous race experience.
Yeah, the only other race car I've done competitively is a 99 Mazda Miata, so that's a little bit different. It's surprisingly easy actually to get used to this. The Ginetta has made it really easy to make the step up. But it's really different, and I'm still getting used to it. So lap time should be able to come down more.
Not wishing to sound like some sort of football coach, but how old are you?
I'm 16.
Right, I'm off then. So you were actually born in the 2000s?
Yeah, 2000.
Again, great. On a serious point, though, I mean, there is a huge difference between a Mazda MX-5 and Miata with 110 horsepower front end. You said it's very easy to change over, perhaps because you're young and naive. But what is the biggest difference?
The biggest difference is definitely the fact that I can actually spin it under power. The Miata, you just slide as much as you like and you're not going to spin. This, though, you have to really be measured with the throttle and really focus on getting out of corners smoothly and not just mashing the throttle like I can do in the Miata. That's probably the big difference, plus the downforce. I've never driven anything with downforce before, so just getting used to the concept that the faster you go through a corner, the better it's going to be is a little different. So those two are probably the biggest thing.
It's great to be in Dubai in the summer, but of course you're an American. But is that where you see your career going now? Are you looking to get into WeatherTech? Are you looking to get into Continental Tire?
Yeah, that's definitely the ultimate goal. I'll get there however I can. I'm open to all kinds of racing. In America, it's a little bit harder to get into road racing than it is in Europe, but I mean, I'm looking forward to trying, and I've loved this so far, and I'm racing in a 24-hour this weekend as well. So that'll be a really good experience, and I'm going to run at least one race in the Pirelli World Challenge this year, so that'll be some more good experience. But yeah, I hope to make it to one of those top-level series in the near future.
Toby, thank you very much indeed. Well, that's a much more focused millennial than we hear about, isn't it?
That was all intelligent, yes, very good.
That was excellent stuff. And
16 years old.
yeah, but I have to say, very, very impressed. And after that, Nick, by the way, that insert was epic.
Yeah.
One of my favourites ever.
It's going to be clipped, that one. I can feel Tim Gray back in London already.
Leading cars are in the
pit.
pits, John. Bass Cromfley in, James French in from second position at the point of pitting. That mainly
Optimum
because
has a problem. Nick Damon is there.
It should be on Sebastian's camera now. It came in with the rear brake duct dragging behind it like a disgruntled snake. They are now trying to reattach the Jubilee clip. But yeah, so that wasn't getting any rear brake temperature, cooling, sorry, as the tyres now changed. New boots on that car, and I think also, I do need to go check on the car 50. Are they new? Yes, they are. It's easy to tell because they have the numbers actually typed on them when they're new. This brake duct on the Optimum machine, that's of course the number 54, is causing more of a problem than mechanic, but this is the advantage, of course, of a 7-minute stop. If you were doing a Le Mans race, this would be a disaster, the extra 45 seconds to put a brake duct on. Here, we've got 4 minutes, it's fine.
It's Nick Damon down in the pit lane. We're live trackside, coming down to the end of the first hour of the second of the 3x3 hour Hankook Prototype Challenge races. And with the leaders in the pit lane, it should be Frank Mattelli who goes back through in the lead in what was the pole sitting car for this race. Been a spin for the 52. Corbett behind the wheel. James Corbett, isn't it, behind the wheel of that Simpson Motorsport car.
Turn 7 proving tricky for some at times
John
here.
Corbett, excuse me.
Should say, by the way, as well, we mentioned a little earlier, those two radicals lapping together and having a bit of a dice. They're still having that dice, and that's about 45 minutes later. So they're cracking on and making their way up the field. They will go a little longer on fuel. Still need to do the same number of routine pit stops. But if they can run untroubled, we saw on those cars, John, on the podium for CN yesterday.
Imagine, if you will, dear viewer and listener, an extra half a dozen P3 cars. Even with the same, you know, what have we got? We got half a dozen CNs, maybe get that up to double figures. You could have 30 cars here in 3 different classes. And that's, you know, before you start thinking about adding 2016 and earlier LMP2 cars. How do you fancy a 35-car field of all prototypes?
I think that's easily feasible.
I've never considered that before, and when people have said to me we need to split off the prototypes and the GT cars in endurance racing, I've always been against it because I like to see the mixed category racing. What I've never considered before, of course, is a mixed category field that is all prototypes.
Correct. Before we get into that, John, new leader with the pit stops. It's not Frank Mattelli because he's pitted the car. So actually, it's the leading CN car. Here we have it.
Norma.
It's Norma is leading, not John Major's wife, but a fine prototype. And by the way, we might well see its big sister in this series later this year because, of course, they're about to produce their first LMP3 car.
Yeah. Amazing little company, Norma, and with a wealth of experience in producing small, relatively affordable race cars.
Yeah, Norbert Santos and his tight-knit little crew down in the south of France. Now,
sort of them and Radical, quite a similar sort of company.
Not dissimilar. And before we got the kick up the order that we saw from Jacques-Nicolas for Ligier, much the same with them too, with you know, when it was still the company it was rather than now the company that it is.
Jacques-Nicolas and Ligier buying everything at the moment as the leader comes through to put a couple of laps on class.
No, that's, I think, just lapping them for the first time. This is all on pace, so this is the Norma. After an hour's racing, going past the two battling radicals, there they are, still together and still battling away for class position.
That's 3rd and 4th in class, the GDL and the AUH cars, respectively. 3rd and 4th in class, but now a lap down to their class leader, the I think that Norma is a great looking car. These CN cars generally... the other thing about the CN cars, the Wolf and the Norma are a bit similar, but the others I can't tell apart.
You know what? I
They
think
have their own personality.
They do, and it is again.
I
it's
know that's a radical, the 81 car,
which
because of the
actually
shorter
isn't
tail.
a CN car. I should say that. That's not. It's in the CN class because
True.
it's got the same sort of performance envelope, if you
True.
like, but it's not a pure CN car. It's allowed in here, and they're 1600cc cars.
Against the 2 litres of the Norma and the Wolf.
Correct.
Right.
So that explains it's not the drivers, it's the difference in performance, but they're welcomed in here, and quite right that should be so as well. Kudos for a moment, by the way,
Broadchurch.
to the V2V series, who
Inclusive.
have involved some of this mixed class racing, and there's room for all of it. I think there's been some common sense applied to where the calendars actually sit. There's room for all of it, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this coming. It's really properly accessible, high performance motorsport. And to actually put in 12-hour races, which is what's coming, we will give you the details of those races because they're there in the calendar. It's set. It will support the 24H series for 4 races this season.
The dates for next year's event here are already set.
Absolutely brilliant.
As we turned up on Monday and picked up our documentation, credentials, about half a rainforest worth of commentators' notes. Thank you, Natasha, and the rest of the Creventic crew for making us feel so welcome here. The first thing I noticed on the back of the programme for this year was next year event date is set. Now that is just awesome.
Brilliant.
For everybody who's here. And those who aren't as well, actually.
It means that planning can be done, and that's a wonderful thing. More pit stoppers,
HHD.
53 car in for the second time now.
HHD standing for? HHD standing for?
Sorry, I'm in the middle of trying to find your dates.
Horseless carriage. Let's go down to the pit lane. Here's Nick Taylor.
Out of the Harrogate horses carriages, of course, used to be a TVR dealer. I think I may have bought a car from them in my wild youth. Is Khalid Al-Muldouf. Khalid, tell us about that hour. You had an unscheduled pit stop in the 53.
Yeah, we had a lot of technical issues, so this was the first time I drove the car in anger. So I was just getting used to it. I had a lock up. We were struggling with heavy vibration. The guys just to make sure. I came in, they changed the 2 front tires, topped up in fuel and went out. And I'm getting more comfortable with the car. I took this session as a practice session. Hopefully next race I'll push.
What's it like as a race car? We've heard that people are saying it's very hard to keep the car consistent with the tyres.
It's actually forgiving, but just to keep the pace under braking, it's like mega G's, you know what I mean? It's spacious and everything, but just under braking, it takes it out of you. You can't, it's so hard to brake consistently every time. As you know, there's no ABS or any other aids in it, so you got to do it old school, but it's a very fun car to drive.
You say you're going to take the next race, as a go for it. So what are you going to change your full attack mode?
I'm actually just going to go flat out. Like I'm not going to be. Today I was just. We have a new engine in the car, so we were breaking it in, new discs, getting it ready. We're going to go with a more aggressive setup, and I'm just going to go flat out. I haven't done even any data on the car, so now I'm going to download some data, see where I'm losing the time, and push to the next race.
I understand you've got some experience in proper LMP2 cars. Now, how does this car compare to a full-fat P2?
Surprisingly, it feels like a P2. Like, even though it's first time in LMP3, but it feels a lot like the P2. I've driven the Orica 03 and I've driven the Lola LMP2, and it feels pretty much the same. I'm surprised. And the brakes on the LMP2, the other MP2s are just a little more better, I think, because they're carbon. But this car overall feels like a P2, not a P3.
Great car, thanks a lot. Enjoy the next one. Thanks, man.
Excellent stuff, and beautifully explained there from
Khalid Al-Muldouf.
Indeed. Now,
who's also done a bit of Porsche racing out here, by the way.
Quite a lot of Porsche racing.
Yeah.
Just to run through where we are at the moment in the standings, because it's an interesting point which we didn't get to see yesterday because of the issues of the cars. 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment are CN cars. 85 leads the race from the 46 Wolf. Then
because
the 2 Little Radicals.
They
haven't stopped, and they've still got to do those 2 stops of 4 minutes 40 each.
Isn't this great? Because they get their time in the sun at the head of the field.
This is how it's supposed to work. Right here, right now. Next up, 5th and 6th, are the 2 Ligier P3 cars. They're about, certainly the lead car, the Graf car, is about a minute back from... No, it's not a minute back from the leaders. Well, I'll come back to that in a moment. But then we get the G57s. Now the chase starts. We've got a yellow flag, by the way, John, at turn 2.
I'm on it. And that is the Wolf.
Oh, dear.
It's the Wolf off on driver's right.
That is the second place car overall at the moment, so that's bad news there.
Guillermo Bellotti has gone off in the Avalon Formula number 46. He's nose into the wall, driver's right. This could be a huge, and straight away the leader is in the pits. The 85 car has come into the pits from Craft Racing.
They're anticipating
a full course.
They are
code 60.
At code 60, which could really fall into the hands of the CN cars here. And it comes out right now.
Get into the pits if you've got a CN car.
And just as that happens, by the way, just saw someone overtaking. Now that was one of the Jeanettes.
Yeah, he's
overtaking
going to have to
another.
get that back. He's going to also on the start line here. Well, there was a Ginetta that went past,
and is still at racing speed.
Though these guys
I think now sees the flag.
Yeah, they're going to have to slow those guys down as they come out the final corner. The idea is that they all come around together.
No, 52, I think, is going to be a little bit of trouble. That was Mr. Corbett.
That's John Corbett.
Now, he overtook a car and did not get down to code 60 for at least 2 corners.
Now, don't forget on code 60 there is a half fuel load rule, but Nick Damon has some news about the 85 car that came in to the pit lane. This is the leader of the race as well as the leading CN car, Nick.
If you can see the timing, the pit stop timer is in white or yellow, depending how good your screen is, which means he got into the pits before code 60 was called.
Got you.
Therefore, code 60 is not applicable. His 280 seconds are being counted with the cars doing half their speed, and he can take a full slug of fuel.
So if the pit lane time is in code 60 purple, which it is for the number 81 car,
the rules apply.
So he can't make this one of his mandatory stops, and he can't take full fuel.
That's right.
Okay.
It's half fuel. Those half fuel, full rules are exactly the same as for the 24 hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the key thing. A good thing to look out for. I noticed this last year that Time Systems had added this feature, and it's really, really useful.
Yeah, very good indeed. Thank you, Nick, for pointing that out. The Ford F-150 crew cab is out there, as it was yesterday. This is the number 1 on the safety team. I noticed a lot of very nice, shiny new Nissans. I wonder if we're going to see those at the weekend in the 24. But my pickup truck recognition yesterday was woeful, so I've been away and swatted up, and that is definitely an F-150.
It's F-150?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, that car will come back, not necessarily around the full circuit. Don't throw your hands up, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world, as I say that, and perhaps you see it. Don't throw your hands up and worry that it's taking a shortcut. Don't throw your hands up and worry if you see that car back out again, because in this form of endurance racing, outside assistance is positively encouraged rather than outlawed. Get it back to the pits, get it fixed, get it back out on the track again. And the driver of the F-150 safety vehicle yesterday was not shy in terms of getting back. If the cars could roll, they were rolling.
Absolutely right. That's what you're seeing here, off track.
The F-150 will make a right turn as it comes halfway down the middle straight into what's called the hill course here. You can have 3 separate circuits operating at the same time. Effectively, if you start-finish and then turning right at T2 and heading through the club link, rejoining at turn 14, then you can have a little sort of oval with a kidney in it, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 7, 8, and then back to 3 again. And then from halfway down the back straight to turn 10, 11, 12, 13, and the other way down the hill link.
Now, he's already in the pit entry, so that's been remarkably rapid stuff. And this is a huge bonus for the number 85 car. It's not worked, by the way, for the 81, because they did not make it in before code 60 came out. So we're going to be back to green flag racing unless there's something else out there, and I don't think there is. Very quickly.
Interestingly, the 81, the AUH Motorsport car, looks to be doing a full stop. Now, I'm not sure whether they realise that they won't be able to take full fuel there.
So they're going to have to come in for 2 more 4 minutes 40 stops. That's going to hurt them.
The 85 isn't. He just needs
We're back
one
to
more.
green.
And we're back to green. There again, the advantage of the Code 60. And the reason we're back to green is because the offending car is already in the pit lane. Less than, just on at 4.5 minutes of Code 60 there.
By the way, the correct question yesterday about whether or not there would be a penalty for, we saw the 57 car, didn't we, under 7 minutes.
By 3 seconds on its
was
first
told
stop.
by one of the janitor guys that the timing beacon is after the 60-kilometre board. So actually, there's a difference between the timing and the line. So I think there's going to be a little bit of leeway given. That was one of the Bellarosa brothers.
Identical twins.
They are identical. In fact, they're both there. You can see them both there by the side of the car. That's Ivan with the lanyard, the orange lanyard. His brother with head down in the guts of the car.
Is that how we tell them apart? Because Ivan always wears the yellow lanyard and his brother wears the black sunglasses.
That would be great, yeah.
Can we have them do that all the time, please? Josh Barrett asking, with pre-2017 LMP2 cars being eligible for the ongoing series, would we possibly, would Simon Dolan be interested in getting the mighty 38 back out?
Well, we could ask him. I'll give him a bell later. Just hearing, by the way, from Creventic, that next year the plan is that there will be a race on the Sunday before the Dubai 24 hours with the prototypes from 9 o'clock till 2100.
So that will be Sunday the 7th of January.
So if anybody wants to come and have a short break in Dubai before the Dubai 24 hours, you'll have racing on both weekends.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah, so effectively it'll be the weekend of the Raw before the 24.
Yes.
So that is the plan for, you were talking about early planning for calendars. Well, there's the next bit of news that...
exclusive.
Exclusive.
Breaking.
Yeah, breaking.
Nothing on fire, though, that's good.
Absolutely. There you go. That's part of the planning for next year's 24H Proto Series will be a 12-hour race on the weekend before the Dubai 24 hours.
And that's 9 in the morning till 9 at night. So that, I reckon that is going to be 3.5, 4 hours of that race in darkness.
Oh yeah, easily. And that'll be a nice way to do it, wouldn't it?
Finish at 9. Yeah, that's all right.
Finish at 9, podium finish by 10, in the bar by 3 minutes past 10.
We'll let Joe Bradley do the podium.
He likes doing the podium.
So after that brief cessation of hostilities then, just about 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes actually, of Code 60, we have an hour and 45 minutes to go, and we have who leading?
No, we've got to wait for the next lap, John. We've got to wait for the next lap because there were several cars in the pits, including the leader. And
it's the 85 Craft Racing car is leading.
Possibly.
It's just gone through.
Actually, it's just gone through, but the second place car hasn't because it was the 46.
Correct.
And the third place car is in the pits. The second Radical, which, by the way, is...
Now, he didn't come in until after the end of the full course yellow.
The net result we'll wait and see, but there's either way a massive advantage played to the 85 car. Timing was utterly perfect for the then race leader.
They have taken one of their mandatory 2 full fat pit stops,
and it's cost them next to no time on track.
I tell you what, that's bad news for the chasing G57s and P3 cars, because they are going to have to get a wiggle on. They are not yet on the same lap.
I waited to see exactly what that gap is going to be at the end of this lap for the P3s, but I think you're right, it's a lap.
It's over a lap. It's a lap and a segment for Craft Racing. The 85 car has Francois Cayman in behind the wheel, and he has completed his first flying lap after his pit stop.
But we wait for that to kind of pan its way out. What we can say is battle now underway with the 2 currently fastest Ginettas now catching rapidly the 2 P3 cars ahead. And it's Lawrence Tomlinson aboard the number 57 Graf Racing G57. And he's just now 3 seconds back from the number 48 car, with Nico Pronk now at the wheel of the Cox Racing Ligier. Now this could be really interesting. Could we get, John, a situation where
anything could happen?
Could we get a situation where each of these three-hour races is run by a car in a different class? We've seen a P3 car win already. The G57s have so far had a much better, cleaner run than they did yesterday.
Yeah, but they've got a CN car to get by.
Indeed. But it means, again, what this has played to is you, the audience, because you've got to see these guys run hard. They've got to chase. They cannot run a conservative race here.
Hello to Sarah Rigby, tuned in from the UK at the moment. No Aston Martins for us to talk about for you here, Sarah. But enjoying the Proto Series. And why wouldn't you? Great place to be out here. It's the Dubai Shopping Festival fortnight as well. 2 weeks of bargains out here at the moment. It's a great place to come in terms of temperature. And from the UK, by the way, it's a relatively sensible, what, 6.5, 7 hour
flight. And actually pretty cheap as well, because it's a very competitive route, of course. By the way, that move has happened. So the first of the P3 cars has been put to the sword by the first two Ginettas, but not Lawrence Tomlinson, because Basson Cromfley has got by Lawrence Tomlinson. Both those cars now, by the way, with the number 12 Graf Racing car for 12th for the second overall.
Yeah, 2.6 seconds between second, third and fourth, but still a lap ahead of them, and a bit of real estate is the Kearman Craft Racing car, Francois Kearman. Actually, excuse me, it's not Francois, it's Daniel that's behind the wheel. Daniel Kearman is behind the wheel. And by the way, we were musing about the Blakemolans. Michael is Jerome's father.
Right, excellent.
Okay, so you were right, and I was entirely incorrect. That's not to say wrong, of course, just completely incorrect. So Daniel Kearman leads the motor race by a lap and about 20 seconds, I reckon.
Just noting from the left of the booth here that you know, the difference between the incorrect and right and wrong is being nodded in agreement. That's the standard form in the Hindhoff house.
The Craft Racing car then leading across the line, and I will tell you in a moment by how much and a lap. As is it the 12 coming through to our right now? Yes, it is. And it is going to be about a lap and 20 seconds, Graham.
It is, that's right, John. And so it's 37 laps in the book now for...
There he goes.
There you go. It's the G57 now up to second place. So
Crumfley.
50 and 57. So 85 now leads 50 and 57. The gap in terms of pace is about 12 seconds a lap here, John. For Basson Cromfley has just gone through at a 1:55 against a 2:07 for the leading car.
So at this pace, it will take 8 laps for them to catch him.
Yes.
About that. It's just over a lap and 20 seconds.
It's 2 minutes.
It's more than that. 12
It's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes. The gap. Yes.
60. It's going to take.
More than 8.
Yeah, it's going to take about 10, 12 laps before. Yeah, absolutely. In an amazing piece of multitasking, by the way, whilst this race is down below 100 minutes remaining, and Joe Bradley is off to take over from Nick Damon in the pit lane, the scrutineering for the Hankook 24 hours is going on, including using the weighbridge in the pit lane.
They've been doing that all day yesterday as well.
It's brilliant how to use the facilities. One of the early garages is, or two of the early garages rather, are the scrutineering and driver sign-up bay, and the drivers going through their weighing in as well. In fact, Joe Bradley is in the pit lane now. He's manfully swerved the weighbridge. We haven't got it calibrated for Joe this weekend. The other thing, I mean, we were talking about Creventic making life easy. There is a fast track sign-on for drivers,
full season drivers.
If you're a full season driver, you can have a fast track where all of your details are taken. You check your kit once, and so long as you bring the same gear at every time, you basically get a quick scrutineering and you're in, which is a brilliant idea.
fastest lap of its race last time around from the 51.
That's Ewan Mackay behind the wheel of the Century Motorsport.
And closing rapidly now on Nico Pronk, who is now down in 4th position.
Do you know, I love this idea of a global audience. The collective is in full effect today, where Sarah Rigby is getting ready to go to work and stealing a few moments in the first part of the race. Out in Australia, we've got a number
and New Zealand
listeners, and New Zealand as well, and Ozfreak is one of them, saying watching the Hankook 24-hour Pro Series after my day at work. So we are literally spreading across the time zones around the world, watching and listening.
Carol Brink busy not making cookies for me, because that's a bad thing, Carol, remember.
Oh yes. So waiting to see Baz Cromfley get onto the lead lap, and
Ginetta coming into the pits, John, and it looked fairly slow coming in.
The pit lane speed limit starts quite a way back, in fairness, before this final corner.
That's a 53 car.
It's Charlie Robertson at the wheel of the...
Well, that's been a troubled HHC car this weekend.
Harrogate horseless carriage.
So that, I think, is young Charles Robertson with a problem, and the engine cover comes off immediately. That's a shame. We're looking forward to see Charlie attacking.
One of the fastest drivers here, no doubt.
Absolutely.
No doubt in anything with a Ginetta badge on it.
Led that Asian Le Mans Series race last weekend in an LMP3 car, albeit with the P2 cars going through their pit cycle, but it stayed close enough to allow that opportunity.
Right, I missed, unfortunately, because of that, whether the... No, it hasn't. They've just gone through underneath us. Brilliant. So the Craft Racing Norma has still got a lap and a few yards, heading down to the first corner at the moment, with Lawrence Tomlinson tucked in behind Baz Confley at the moment.
And closing in.
Well, yeah, Bassam Confley, Baz Confley is getting close now to that Norma. They'll be going through turns 2 and 3. Let's see if I can pick them up on the binoculars. And they are absolutely together through turn 6 and into turn 7 down the inside. The bigger Ginetta tries to have a go but can't make it happen, and the Norma will hold on to its lap lead for a moment more and then get slightly moved offline, and both of the Ginettas have gone through turns 8 and 9, and of course will disappear into the distance down the back straight, which is exactly what they're doing now.
This is brilliant. I'm loving this. This is exactly what I wanted to see from this. It's you want to see a chase when you've actually got something where it's time being balanced out. You want cars to have a clean race, and you want to see the chase.
Well, also everybody has to drive flat out.
Absolutely.
And drive flat out but clean.
Absolutely right. This is great stuff.
If I may quote the gate, push without risk.
Push without risk. Well, just to remind people...
2017, barely a fortnight old, and we've had a quotation from Lena Gade already.
Why are we where we are? Just to recap to anybody that did pop off to get a quick cup of coffee or cup of tea at this time of the morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. The leader, as we're just 5 minutes from the halfway point in this 3-hour race, is the number 85 Craft Racing Norma. That's come for 2 reasons. 1, they get a shorter pit stop. 2, the timing was perfect for the Norma. They came in just as... we were about to go to code 60 for one of the other CN cars in trouble, and I can see that 46 Wolf, by the way, being attended to in the awning, so we might well see that car again later. That gave them a lap lead over the P3 cars and the faster of the Ginettas. The Ginettas, the quickest of the lot. They have to stop for longer. They've now had to chase back from a lap plus back. They've just got the lap back. They're now on the lead lap, but have to make up that entire lap before we get to the stage where we get that whole cycle starting again. Great stuff. So 1 hour, 34 minutes to go. Leader is the 85 Craft Racing Norma, a CN car, from 2 of the, in fact now 3 of the Ginetta G57s, because the 51 car, Ewan Mackay, the Century Motorsport car, goes up into 4th. So second position is Bassam Cromfley in the Simpson Motorsport Ginetta. Lawrence Tomlinson just half a second back now in the 57 Gruff Racing car. Ewan Mackay is up to 4th in the Century Motorsports 51 car. Then it's the 2 P3 cars, the Gruff Racing 12 and the 48 Cox Racing car. They're right together. They are half a second apart. So this is great stuff. Battles in the classes. for both of the coupe versions of the small prototypes are separated by half a second. There's a big gap in CN now because of the problems that the Wolf had a little earlier. It's the Craft racing car in a dominant position there, but cracking stuff as we approach the halfway mark in the second of 3-hour preview races for the 24H Proto Series, John.
Let's go down to Joe Bradley and check in with him as he has joined us in the pit lane. Good morning, Joseph. Oh, no, maybe not. My apologies. And just to say to Jack Shalowski, best of luck for your job interview today. Issue over at turns 5 and 6. There's a yellow flag out there for a brief moment. It's gone back in, so just a slight rotation for a car, which I have to say I didn't spot. And by the way, let's reiterate that exclusive news is that the 24-hour Proto Series, it was the 54 car. Thank you very much,
Carl Master on a recovery drive back up through the field again.
So the weekend before the Hankook 24 here at Dubai next year, we will have a 12-hour prototype race. So, and that is going to be, is that the 7th of next year?
The 7th next year.
So that's the 7th of January.
I think
2018.
I think that's because Ivo Brokis and the guys all want to have a slightly longer holiday in Dubai just before the 24 hours, and it seems like a good opportunity. Actually, joking aside, brilliant idea.
Just off the track in turn 6, the number 50 car. Second place for Baz Cronfleet.
Now, has that given an opportunity for Lawrence Tomlinson to get by? Look in the background, look in the background, look in the background, because he was 0.2 of a second back last time through. Is that still the second place car? I think it possibly is, because I cannot see a car in front. Where is the 57? Where's the 57?
It was only 0.2 behind them. Well, he's had a spin.
Oh, he spun, did he?
He's been off the track at 6.
My apologies, in which case 57 will have gone through. So Lawrence Tomlinson we would expect to be through and into second position overall.
Not so much a spin as ran wide. Joe Bradley is down in Berlin. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Beautiful day again, once again. Just wanted to report on the HHC car. A myriad of problems with this car. The car's just left. Not quite sure what the problem was. I'm going to try and talk to Charlie Kemp, who's on the pit wall. He's the team principal, and we'll have all the answers. Are you okay to talk to us, Charlie? I think he's in communication with the car, having just left the pit. So I'm going to get our timing right. Hi, Charlie. I'm not used to seeing you guys struggle, but you've certainly had a character-building week so far.
That's a very good way of putting it, I suppose. Yeah, we had an all-night engine change last night. It looked like we had indeed solved the problem. The first day went quite well. Charlie's just jumped into the car, and we appear to be having another issue. So we've just come in, made a few changes, and see if we can solve the problem.
Would you consider these teething problems? Is that what we call them?
Yeah, it's just lots of little bits, and you know, once you get a full handle of the car, it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things. Sadly, it's motorsport.
Yes, it is, and it is. We call it character building. Charlie, you guys in for the whole of the prototype series this year?
We're certainly looking at a number of different programs. Obviously, we're able to achieve something for the first round, and it's something we'd like to do. You know, continuing into the year.
We'd certainly like to see here. I'll let you get back to work. Charlie Kemp there. This is where endurance races are won and lost, on the pit wall.
Half distance, 90 minutes down, 90 minutes to go, and it is absolutely in the balance. Lawrence Tomlinson has got his lap back and is now on the end of the lead lap in second place. Cronfleet, who dropped a good 10 seconds, is now back to just 2.6 seconds behind LT.
Yeah, and I'll give you a gap when we see the end of the lap from the lead car, but the gap is going to be, well, I guess at about 1.5 minutes now.
Yeah, but the problem is those G57s are going to have to stop again soon.
That's exactly the point.
Will they get back to him before they have to stop?
And then there's an advantage again played. So it's a game, John. This is cat and mouse game. They've got a 7-minute stop. The Norma has got a 4 minutes 40 stop, so they've got to get back that lap, then get ahead, and then they lose some more time. So they've got about 28 minutes before they have to be in the pits for a routine pit stop. So the gap is 1 minute and 25 seconds. So it's 1 minute and 25 is the pure gap in time from the leading 85 car to the 57 G57 and Lawrence Tomlinson, the Graf Racing car.
That's about 2/3 of a lap, isn't it?
It is about, yes, yeah, and it's coming down rapidly. It's coming down last time by another 12 seconds. This is cracking stuff. This is, you know, this is where you need someone with the brain the size of a planet. When does that flight arrive?
Just tomorrow morning. The interesting thing to me, though, is the fastest lap of that Norma is a 56.6. Currently, Daniel Kierman doing 2:07s. 54.4 is the fastest lap from the 57 car, chasing it down, the G57. Currently, Lawrence Tomlinson doing a very creditable 55.6. So it's about getting as close as you can to the ultimate performance out if you can't.
Right, for the next half of the race, it works this way. If both those cars run cleanly, Lawrence Tomlinson and Mike Simpson have to take 205 seconds out of the Norma, because they're going to lose time in the pits because they have to stop for longer.
At least that,
so they've got 1 minute and 25 seconds plus the time they lose in the pit stop.
Right, okay.
So that's the way it
they've got
works.
to take more than 2 minutes, more than 3 minutes out of the car.
Correct.
Okay.
It's in fact,
and that's everything
it's
else
almost
being
it's
equal.
3.5 minutes. Call it 3.5 minutes from this point.
That's assuming that the genetic can only do it on one more stop, and I don't think it can.
We'll see. We'll see.
But we know the Norma can.
We know the Norma can. This is going to be good. If they run clean, I think they'll do it, and they'll do it comfortably. But they've got to run clean.
This is fantastic. And well done to the guys in the 85 who timed their pit stop to absolute precision. That obviously dark grey or black and red are the in colours this year. And this car, the Norma M20 FC. I think I played for M20 FC for one or two games back in my teenage years.
And potentially look for later this year in the 24H Protest Series for the new M for the 30, which is their version of the LMP3.
So that's a closed cockpit car.
Correct. In comes the EDEC Sport car. The number 17 car was the winner in class yesterday.
Down in third position in that Liège year, and a run that took them to the lead in the last 2 laps of the race.
Correct.
10 seconds was the gap as we went into the start of the penultimate lap for the CN, and a good 5 seconds each of the last 2 laps taken out of the leader in a brilliantly timed charge to the front of the field. For what I think was an unexpected victory for them, because they'd had a few problems early on.
Yes.
And they had to charge back from that.
They did. So we saw charging up and down the field, and yesterday's race characterised probably, John, by incidents and by, well, attrition, but that didn't take away from the entertainment, because what we saw were cars and crews having to battle back, and we'd like to see that. This is an altogether different kettle of fish.
Before Jack Shalansky heads off for his job interview, he fires this into, I think, mainly the collective, rather than anybody else. Is this event, the Hankook 24 Hours, on this circuit, the most densely packed road race ever?
At this level, my guess is it probably is. I think there are other events, including things like the 24 Hours of Lemons, which does have a very large entry on a fairly small track. I'm not quite sure about Thunder Hill either, about what kind of density we get there. But there are other races of this sort of length that do have very large entries. But at this level, I think you're looking at it right here. And you know what we know, John, don't we, from commentating on this race in the last couple of years as the entries blossomed in terms of numbers, it is quite an extraordinary sight from our vantage point up here at the top of the stands. It does look like the world's biggest Scalextric set.
The 2 things that I look forward to every year is the grid rolling around here before the start of the race, and the young timer grid rolling out of the pit for 27
Which is
minutes.
basically just like a moving classic motor show, isn't it?
For 27 minutes.
It is one of those special things about being part of the Radio Le Mans crew, is to sit in that booth and just watch them roll by, roll out onto the
your
track.
feet.
Under your feet. And it's every year there's something different, and every year there's a car you've not seen for 30 years. Wonderful. The gap now, by the way, just 61 seconds. Because Lawrence Tomlinson takes another 12 seconds, reliably now taking 12 seconds a lap out of the lead car, and that's a CWS car with the P2.
Nico Pronk.
Yep, so this is the battle now for sixth position, sorry. And just ahead of that battle is the second of the P3 cars. Through goes the CWS car, up the inside of...
That's a turn number 9 onto the back straight, and he's got past...
He's got past both of them. Both of them in the same lap.
So Brandon Godovic
goes up to 5th position now.
Yeah.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a CN car, then 4 Ginettas, then the 2 P3s.
And then 2 more G, and then another G57.
And Carl Masson is now with those P3 cars as well. So this is working out nicely. This is the way this should work.
Carl Masson last time around 155.3.
So effectively, the way the mathematics should work is that they should see the cars before the end of the stint overtaking the P3 cars, going away, and then having to do the same again in the final part of the race.
It's like a big handicap race.
Yeah, there you go. Past. That's the leader, isn't it? That is, or is that the 80? No, that's the 85. That is the leader.
They're getting back on the lead lap.
Yes, they're back on the lead lap now.
So that is out of turn 14, the horseshoe, coming up to the right hand at 15, then over the top of the brow. We tried to give you some idea with the TV pictures of the rise and fall of this track. It is not by any stretch of the imagination a billiard table smooth or absolutely flat track. The undulations, such as they are, they're not huge here. Look, this is not Circuit of the Americas. This is not Paddock Hill Bend at Brands Hatch. But where the designers of this circuit, and it was Apex, wasn't it, who did the design of this track, they have used what they have to the best of their abilities, because the off-camber turns, the little rises and falls in places that make your braking and turning compromised. It's a brilliantly designed circuit, it really is.
Right, can now confidently give you where we stand in terms of the overall race, and it's quite easy the maths, because we had Lawrence Tomlinson taking steadily 12 seconds, last time around 13 seconds out the leader. That put the gap last time through at 48 seconds, so 5 laps before we see, 4 to 5 laps before we see the 57 car challenging for the overall lead. Meanwhile, that's the CWS car and the 54 car swapping positions, so that is Carl Masson going through and taking 5th position from Brandon Godovic. So both those cars now ahead of the P3 cars. 36 seconds is working out exactly that way. It's 12 seconds consistently. So consistency from the 85 car is about a 206, 207 lap. Consistency from Lawrence Tomlinson is about 154, 155. So now 3 laps before we see the Ginetta either on the tail or just ahead of the Little Norma.
Question from Josh Barrett. How about the Orica FLM09?
No reason why not. There is no reason why not.
I love it. Great, and the thing is about Creventic, as we've seen with the touring cars and the GT cars, if there's not a class for it,
make one.
Then it becomes PX class.
Yes.
And it just
which
races.
Is the one we should have seen here, the Renault RS01.
Correct, that was in the Unlimited class.
Which actually hasn't made it to the grid. We've not had an answer as to why, but that was an experiment as to see whether or not that would work here. It's not been required, to be honest with you, at this point. So 1 hour, just under 20 minutes now to the top of the final hour of this 3-hour race. And what a different race this has been, John.
Can I just ask you a question about the RS01 Renault? That was going to run in its...
PX.
In PX. But was that was going to run not as a GT3 alike, it was going to run in its single make, so carbon brakes, lower downforce levels, and super quick.
The main difference, the main visual difference with the car is that in GT3 spec, because it's too fast for a GT3, it runs effectively an air dam between the 2 wing supports. It basically needs to be slowed down by about 5 seconds a lap on a regular circuit.
And it's raised up when they take the carbon brakes away, and they put a smaller restrictor on it.
So it was running effectively in the Sport Trophy spec, which has got a Renault GT3 engine, a GTR engine, if you like, in the back of the car. It's a carbon chassis, a very quick piece of kit.
Oh, I love them. They're great
but,
cars.
Potentially, we might see those cars in this series.
Great.
My guess would be you'll see it if the numbers require it to be there.
Okay.
Because there are cars there, and Renault's still supporting that car in endurance spec.
They built 50 of them.
Yep.
They built 50
Yep,
of those cars.
They have had orders for new cars, all of them, for endurance racing.
That's more than some GTE cars have road cars built.
Again, going through again, it's 23.9, so 24 seconds is the gap. 2 laps now before we see the potential for a lead change. Lawrence Tomlinson has run a fantastic stint in this car so far.
Spin on the front straight!
That's the A-Tech car.
It's the A-Tech car just hitting the wall, the number 56 car. And who is behind the wheel of that at the moment? It's Ollie Smith, isn't it? Who's in there, just kissed the wall. Code 60's come out immediately.
Oh,
Now, this is where potentially the Ginetta could get a pit stop.
No, but it's too early. It's too early for the Ginetta.
No, but they could take half a tank of fuel.
Yeah, but what could happen here... no, it's too late to come in because it's an emergency one.
But it's half a tank of fuel. They need a splash. You've got to do it now. This gives you the time to make one more stop from here. Any Ginetta who is really close on fuel makes that splash now.
It's not at code 60. It's just a yellow flag.
Oh, okay.
Now this is the point, John. Here,
they wait to see if it can get restarted.
Can the Norma make it in? If the Norma can make it in and can get to the end with one tank, they could do the same again. If it goes to code 60
Code
here...
60's in hand. Code 60's in hand.
Too late then.
Come into the pits.
Too late.
No, too late.
Too late.
But the Ginettas come around. Now, the Ginettas can take advantage of a half a tank of fuel here, Graham. I'm absolutely certain of it. And this is where you have to be quick.
If they need it. I'm not sure they needed it, because I think where we suppose that might be the case for one of those cars, that car had a different problem.
Okay.
So I don't think there's an advantage to be drawn here. The only advantage to be drawn here, if they go straight for fuel, put the fuel in that they need, they're still going to do a 7-minute stop anyway, so there's no advantage to be drawn.
Okay.
Had a car...
Your splash is done under code 60 rather than at full speed.
If it needs a splash, which I don't think it does.
The advantage that the craft car gets is it's another 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Correct.
That it's not going to be caught.
The only car that takes an advantage here is the overall leader.
Hello to Ian Downs, who's just finishing his night shift in Peterborough in central UK, East Northamptonshire, and is having a bit of 24 Proto Series before he goes to bed. Another one of the Ford F-150s. This is...
That's not been a particularly busy one, the silver one, has it?
No, and I think the silver one is the number 2 car rather than the number 1, which is the red one. So Thunderbird 2 has come out for this one.
Has that got a pod that goes underwater?
Ford Thunderbird 2.
Oh.
No, that was pod 4.
It was.
Yeah, pod 4. And, yeah, it looks like we are bereft of fire in the V8 LS3 motor.
Very classic place to have a moment there, power up across the curbs.
Coming out of the final corner.
In comes the 53 car, by the way. That's Charlie Robertson again.
Yeah, they're out of it at the moment, I'm afraid.
Well, if they're suffering some problems, this is smart because it means he's burning time at a much slower rate to solve any minor issues, but they are clearly not in the overall hunt. While we're under caution, if you're watching the video stream, you're watching the recovery of the 56. Let's just quickly run through the order. It is still just ahead. The 85 Craft Racing car, the CN Norma, and it is Francois Kierman at the wheel of that car. Or is it Duncan Kierman? Daniel Kierman.
It's Daniel. I made the same mistake.
7.6 seconds ahead as they cross the line from Lawrence Tomlinson in the number 57 Ginetta G57.
You see, look at that.
Oh, you see, now we're going to be going straight back to green here.
Opened up the gap in the middle of the pit lane, so you don't even have to take the car to the end of the pit lane. It is just enough lock, I think, to get that car through. And as soon as those gates are closed again on the front straight, the car has just got through.
Code 60 will end in under 1 minute, and I suspect a lot quicker than that. So watch for green flags around the circuit. We're going to be going back to green flag racing remarkably rapidly, buttoning up the gates now.
We don't have to wait for the leader to come through. It is basically once the race director is happy that everything is clear. And that will be when the gates are closed and locked. There will be a countdown over the radio from race control to
leader in the pits.
Oh, no.
Oh, too early. Too early. It's too early.
And it's green. Now, yes, they've just come in a tiny bit too early.
Now, does he have to? Has he got a problem?
An hour and 13 to go. He might be low on fuel. Now the question is for me: is he going straight for fuel?
It can't be, John. He stopped late. Remember.
I forgot to look at the stint length as he came in.
No, he came in, I'm sure, well past the hour. I think that car's got a problem.
Well, they aren't looking at tyres on it. The jack is going. They're retorquing the wheels with a hand torque wrench. Both of the rear wheels are being retorqued. Oh, and there's a certain sense of frustration from the team down there, and shrugging of shoulders and pointing. So
I could see a bit of a waving of the arms as well.
Also
I think that car,
by the way, the third place G57, second in class, third overall. Baz Cronfley has brought that car in, and Mike Simpson is about to get in it. In fact, he's being installed now.
No, 50. Yeah, sorry, yes.
Sorry, no, I've got the wrong team.
It's not Mike Simpson.
It's Philip Haysbrook, excuse me.
And that's early. I don't think they can get home from here.
It's the Simpson Motorsport car, which is why.
Sure. 56, meanwhile, is also in. The ATEC car back in, and engine cover off that car as well.
Joe Bradley is down at the far end of the pit lane where the action is at the moment. What's happening with the 85 car, Joe?
I'm not sure about the 85, but I'm with the 56. This is the car that's just backed into the wall. Now, Seb here, you can see this little bit of... This is the only damage on the car. The car nudged into the rearwards into the wall, spun coming out the final turn, caused that very, very quick code 60. And I think he's a very lucky boy, isn't he? He's barely nudged the wall. But the car's in. I did get the opportunity to break the news to Rick Breiters, who was ready for the car to come in with his helmet nod, and he said, what's going on? I said, oh, your car's just backed into the wall. Oh, has it? I'll not be going out then. I think they are, though, because very little damage seen there. They're just checking the car now to see if the car has, of course, hit the wall. The energy transferred throughout the length of the car, so they're just checking the rear end. But from what I can see, the only part of the car that's touched the wall is that slight smudge on the rear end.
And that's the right rear wing end plate. There's a flat spot on the Hankook tyre on the left-hand side. That'll need to be changed. And what we now need to know is what's happening to the CN leader, the 85 car, which
Still
of course is at the other end of pit lane.
Still in pit lane, John, and I think that car is in trouble. I think that car hit trouble.
Refired. It's just refired. What I don't understand is why they're timing the stop.
They shouldn't be. If that car can go further on fuel, it should do it now. It should go to the end of the hour, because it's going to have to come in for a full stop.
Joe Bradley?
It's going for fuel. It's a mistake, Joe.
The 56 car, which we stay with, cause or effect. That rear left-hand rear wheel with a lot of positive camber there, looks like the suspension rod has broken. Yeah. Now, whether that's been caused, I would say that's the cause of the spin rather than that's been caused by the spin, because there's no damage on the car and yet the suspension's broken.
Okay, Joe, thanks for that. And that is similar to some of the issues that Graham was describing from the Asian Le Mans Series race.
To be honest with you, it was Thunderhill we were talking about.
Thunderhill, yes.
But I did wonder whether or not, because it was an odd accident. We've gone back to code 60, by the way, because there's been an incident out at turn 5-6. We had yellow flags there briefly, but back to code 60. While things calm down a moment, we should reflect that Lawrence Tomlinson is back into the lead. Graham, or rather, is into the lead in the 57 car. I'm
looking at the timing screen. I think the 85 car was in the pit lane before it came out.
It wasn't.
Well, the timing screen says it was.
No, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't.
The timing screen says it was. It depends where the pit lane beacon is.
I don't think that's the case. I think it was way after, unfortunately. Well, that was purple for quite some time. So quite why that's changed, I don't know. Whether or not we can hear from race control, but I'm pretty certain that has changed from purple to yellow on our screens. To explain what we're talking about here, if you come into the pits before the Code 60 flags come out, you can count that stop towards one of your 2 longer stops, 4 minutes 40 seconds for the CN cars and for the P3 cars, 7 minutes for the G57s. That then shows us being yellow on our timing screens. If you come into the pits after the Code 60 begins, then you can't count that stop towards one of your 2 mandatory stops.
As has just happened for John Corbett in the number 52 car. It's the 51 car that is stranded on driver's left on the exit of turn 7. Ewan Mackay,
previous
at
leader,
the wheel of that car, and this time it's the number 6 pickup that's gone there, which is another one of the white and red rather than the red and white Ford F-150s. Not sure about that, but is that one of the new fleet out there? I'll tell you a little more about that in a moment. I know that Big Watch is very, very important. An hour and 7.5 minutes to go, and this race is in a fine balance. In fact, that is one of the newer vehicles, isn't it? That is there. That car is being pushed away. This is the 51 car. Ewan Mackay, Century Motorsport, was 5th in the G57 class. This is all going to come down to a dash to the flag.
Should say, by the way, there's another car that was in during Code 60 that has gone back to yellow in the fueling area, so I think that's just a peculiarity of the timing screens. I'm fairly certain, and would ask whether or not we could hear from race control, but I'm fairly certain that the 85 did not make it in. In fact, the car just rejoined, and its time in the pit stop was 4 minutes and 52 seconds, which is, they think that was a stop that counted, don't they?
Yeah.
So the timing screen giveth, and the timing screen potentially taketh away. That drew great advantage from coming in at exactly the right time just before a Code 60 happened last time. And if an issue struck, it struck at a disastrous moment, because I think that was too late. But let's wait and see.
Well, the Code 60 flags are out again, this for the 3rd time.
It's taking just a little longer, this one. And it's a 54, but again, this stop will not count. We're now getting very close to the point, by the way, 6 minutes away from the hour. And it's close to the point where the leading cars will require their final stops. That, by the way, that's Carl Masson coming in from 2nd place. Now, what is the reckoning here? Is the car, it's getting new tyres. It's getting a change of driver. I'm just trying to see whether or not that is Bradley Ellis getting in. Dr. Drift. Dr. Drift, because Bradley, if I remember correctly, and you might correct me here, John, if I'm wrong, used to drive the medical car in BTCC, and that was a Porsche Cayenne. And once or twice, young Bradley, as he was then, drifting the car, the Cayenne, to much applause from the assembled audience.
It just so happens that the Radio Show Limited wagon of choice this weekend is a Cayenne S.
Absolutely. Got the spinners and everything on it.
It's very, very comfy. Thank you very much to Porsche Middle East.
It's a Nissan pickup this time, isn't it?
Yes,
did you?
I did say it was one of the new fleet.
You were wounded by your inability to actually identify a pickup, weren't you, last night?
Do you know how I spotted the difference on that one? And I couldn't see it through the binos, but as soon as we got the TV picture, I spotted it because it had different wheels on it.
Oh, God. I knew I'm painful on a road trip.
The F-150s have got the spoked alloys on, and all of the Nissan Navaras have got the pressed steel on them.
Brandon Godovic in now as well, and that's just before the hour. Now, you may be right here, John. They may need the splash, but it doesn't explain why the car's up on jacks.
Well,
it can't be that, can it? It cannot be that they've miscalculated here. It can't be that. There must be issues for both of those cars. In now, by the way, again, under Code 60.
They've just had tyres, mate. That's all.
I've a feeling that we've got a wholesale misunderstanding about the rule book here. I genuinely think so. Because if you look, the top 5 cars are now all on pit road, all for pit stops, which shouldn't count towards their major timed stops.
Joe Bradley.
Well, I'm with Cox Racing. Peter Cox is going to jump in the car. Nico Pronk jumps out. Well, I'll get a word with Nico, no doubt, and maybe get some insight as to what the strategy is. For me, clearly the strategy is for Peter Cox to get in the car, final stop. This will be their second mandatory, I believe, and they'll soak it up as a mandatory stop, and then that'll be a run to the finish for Peter. That's the way I see it, guys. Do you see it differently?
Well, what I think we see differently, but our belief is that they can't have a mandatory stop under Code 60, come in under Code 60. That's what we believe with the rules. We're checking the rule book now, otherwise we could, of course, panic in the pit lane. But it seems to me that the top 5 cars have either all decided they all know the rules correctly or have all got it wrong.
Yes.
So we're checking that now, guys, and we'll come back to you.
It's a very good point, and I didn't pick up on that in the regs, but there are supplementary regs abound with regards to the regulations here regarding mandatory stops. The 48 car certainly hasn't been static for 280 seconds for sure, and it's already moved off into the fueling area.
Well, that includes the fueling area. So
yes, indeed, yes.
So,
so hopefully they've got someone with stopwatch in the fueling area.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Now, Nico has just got his helmet off. I'm going to have to dive. He's walking away. 2 seconds. Cool. I'll come back to you when I've got Nico for a chat.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Joe Bradley. The 51 car, by the way, is now under tow, so we're heading towards the end of this Code 60 period. It's 62 minutes to the end of this race, and what had looked like, a chase for time, rather interrupted by, what looked, I think, Joe Bradley was quite right. I think it was cause and effect, that problem for the number 56 Ginetta with a suspension breakage, by the look of it, on the left rear. And then in pretty rapid order, further problems, this time for the Century Motorsport car, number 51 car, out on the circuit. Now I can see under tow from the Nissan pickup and heading back towards the pit lane. So we've had 2 Code 60s in rapid succession. During that second Code 60, all of the top 5, in fact, all of the top 6 came in and took pit stops. Now, we're just checking the rule book here. Our initial belief was that you couldn't soak up one of your mandatory long stops. So that's 280 seconds for the CNs and the P3s, 420 for the G57s. John?
Let's head back down to the pit lane where Joe Bradley is waiting.
Yeah, Nico Pronk has just handed the Cox Racing Ligier over to Peter Cox. Nico, was that all scheduled? That wasn't brought in prematurely because of the Code 60 or anything?
Yeah, normally I should have done, I think, like 4 or 5 more laps. But because of the Code 60, I could, I could enter earlier.
Right, and you can take your mandatory stop during a Code 60, we believe.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, you can do that.
So tactically, that's a great move for you guys.
Yeah, that was absolutely good for us. Yeah, yeah.
And tell me about the stint. It was going well. You're having a good battle out there, I saw.
Yeah, it went much better than yesterday because, as compared to yesterday, I could have my pace immediately and kept the lap times rather constant. And it was a nice fight with the other gentleman driver in the Graf car. It's a pity. I think I was a bit faster, but I couldn't overtake him. And then after the first Code 60, I think he was still a little bit late to go on throttle, and then I could overtake him.
It's been a very busy 2 days for everyone in this prototype series of races. We're not finished. We've got a race this evening. We've virtually kind of done a 24-hour race because you've been focused and concentrated since yesterday.
Absolutely. I was this morning early in the car with Peter. I said, 24 hours is heavy, but this, it's so packed over 2 days. It feels like, in terms of fitness, you need to have the same fitness as with a 24-hour race, I think. It's really very, very intense.
Yeah, enjoyable though?
Absolutely. It's a great car to drive, great series, and also the format, 3 times 3 hours. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Now, we asked Peter whether you guys were in for the rest of the prototype series. Perhaps you were the guy to ask that one, Nico. It's your car. What's your thoughts on competing in the rest of the prototype series this year?
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to drive the car a lot more than last year. Perhaps 1 or 2 of these events. But we're also looking at, let's say, the GT3 Cup, the Michelin GT3 Cup, because we also can enter with a proto car. So we do a bit of everything, I think. We are not looking for a full championship, but do some cherry picking, nice tracks, etc.
Nice. Well, I hope to see you back in the prototype series. Thank you, Nico. Nico Pronk there.
Back to green. You finished that. We go back to green as the Nissan pulls the 51 car back into the pit lane. Now, I've got the supplementary regs and the briefing notes from the driver and team managers. During code 60, only 50% of the amount of a fuel is allowed, with exceptions allowed in Rule 29.4. 29.4 says code 60 procedure is in operation, the pit lane is open, competing cars can enter the pit lane and rejoin the track. A car rejoining the track under these conditions will proceed at reduced speed. Serving of time penalties during code 60 is allowed, but the time penalty will be doubled. So there's nothing in there. What I haven't found yet is anything about the mandatory pit stop being allowed to be taken.
Well, we'll wait and see whether or not we're told different. I can only believe,
but they've
John,
only been able to take half the fuel.
But in theory, well, by regulation, I wonder whether we're going to see that rule enforced. 51, by the way, has been wheeled back into the garage that sits behind where the car is pitting. Century Motorsports, and the car wheeled in where Optimum Motorsport actually have their GT cars for the 24 hours. So to get the guys out of the sunshine and to do what work is required. The Nissan intervention vehicle about to reposition itself. 53, meanwhile, still is having attention on the pit apron. Mike Simpson then goes out and I think will retake the lead. So we'll comment, I think, at the moment, until we hear different in what we're seeing on track, John.
Carry on.
So it's G57 from, would you believe, the Little Radical, because that car stopped under the caution and, of course, then drew the advantage of having to stop for less time. So second place overall, as we go back to green, as they're scored just at the moment, goes to the number 81 AUH Radical. So Ginetta G57 from CN Radical from P3 Ligier. So the three different classes in the top three overall as they were scored last time through. That might shuffle as these pit stops just wind out over the next lap. Bradley Ellis drops back down to fourth on timing and scoring, but is in very close proximity indeed to the number 48 car with Peter Cox back at the wheel. So the cars that took their pit stops, which, to be blunt, was most of the cars at the sharp end as we went to code 60, about to complete their first flying laps next time around. So we'll pause until we see that wind out. We'll see the pure order. And of course, theoretically, now with every car, with one exception, and that is the 51 car that is in the garage, so therefore has now taken a second pit stop.
Now, one of the whatever we're talking about in terms of the pit stops, the 55 last pit stop was 6:41.
That's a little quick.
The 54 was 6:46.
Yeah.
And the 57 was 6:44. So they were all quick.
And we've got a problem for the 50 car now. That's Philip Hazerbrook in the Simpson Motorsport car. That car has stopped at the turn 1 link road, so I think will be potentially off the racing surface.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is one of the very small amounts of the track
we can't see.
I can't see from here.
Okay, so at the moment...
Oh, no, yes, I can. Well, actually, I can. It's safe. It is safe because it's so far up the turn 1 link road that we've managed to get a support vehicle to it. This is the number 7 support vehicle, one we haven't seen yet. And who was in that car?
Philip Hazerbrook is in the 50 car.
He's out of it, standing behind it now.
Right, okay. The leader actually is the Radical. The 81 car has gone through to the lead because of that shorter pit stop. Mike Simpson, though, under 30 seconds back from the car as they came through last time. So at the moment, it's the Radical from the Graf Ginetta, from Bradley Ellis, who's just taken the position from Peter Cox in the Cox Racing Ligier. Then Colin White is now back aboard the number 55 CWS car. And then we've got the Graf Ligier P3. That is your top 6. All three classes are represented in it. 7th is the second of the CN cars. That was the car that led up till that those dramas with 2 code 60s and flurry of pit stops. The Craft Racing Norma, 7th, and 2nd in CN. And the EDEC Sport car looks to me to be a lap down on the 85 and 3rd in CN. So all of the potential podium sitters in all 3 classes.
He's not a lap down. He's about to come round and complete his 53rd lap, which the 85 car already has done. So he's not quite a lap back. He's going to come through any second now, and we'll get a time for you.
Mike Simpson, meanwhile, goes to 1:54.3, closes the gap to the lead to 15 seconds now.
But just as he's 1:48.8 behind Graham, but he is on the same lap.
He's on the.
But he's been out there an hour and 14 minutes. Now, there's been some full course code 60s in that, but that tells you how long those Ligiers can go.
Now, has he not? I wonder whether or not that Ligier has done both his stops, both his required stops, or did he come in for a short stop at some point?
Well, he's been out for 1:13, so he can't have done his...
Well, he could have. He could have done 2 long stops early in the race.
Oh, I see what you mean, and therefore just needs fuel.
Yes.
Why would you do that? I don't...
well, it may have been forced to. There may have been an issue, and they may well have burned one of those stops. But we'll see.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Mike Simpson goes down to a 1:54.333 in the second place Ginetta G57, second place overall, leading its class. This is the Craft Racing car. That car, 52 minutes to run.
That car will be on the tail of the leader as they come through to complete this lap.
Yeah, the AUH Motorsports number 81 car.
Again, a clean run, a very clean run for that car, has taken it to the lead.
Tarek El Gamai.
And they have done both their stops.
Tarek Al Gamal just getting up to speed there, 2:05.9 last time around, against a best time for that car of a 2:05 flat. And you see, that's what you need, isn't it? You've got to be close. He's been in that car 55 minutes. Surely they can't go another 50 minutes from here. They will need a splash. What I'm looking for is people who are in the first 10 minutes or so of their runs, and that includes Mike Simpson, so he'll be able to go to the end. Fastest lap of the race for Bradley Ellis in 3rd position, and the race is on between the 2 G57s, a 1:53.6, and the gap between 2nd and 3rd comes down.
They will be in positions 1 and 2 if this lap goes smoothly, because they're 3 and 5 seconds respectively behind Little Radical, and we're catching it at the rate of over 10 seconds a lap. So we'll keep an eye out for that lead change. It's happened actually very quickly because Mike Simpson's through, but then goes way wide. That's going to give Bradley Ellis a chance to close right down.
Where?
Just in turns 5, 6.
Okay.
And Ellis goes through on the Radical, so the Ginetta's now 1-2 as they come round to go down the back straight, and it's going to be a drag race between these 2 cars for the second part of this lap.
Okay. So down the middle part of the straight there, Bradley Ellis
just
is
ahead
now
of that
in
54
second position, going into turn number 10. The leader is the red, white and blue Graf car, and again slightly he's got a problem.
He has.
Coming out of the corner, Mike Simpson not being able to get a gear or something, but the 57 car all of a sudden...
Second time woes for Mike Simpson.
50 minutes to go, and through has gone the AUH Motorsport back into 2nd place.
Optima Motorsport to the lead.
After the fastest lap of the race last time around by Bradley Ellis, a 53.6, he now finds himself in the lead. Drivers left up towards turn number 12 at the right-hand side of the circuit from us. The door comes open immediately, but that's probably just to get a bit of airflow through there.
Now, whatever happened, that happened very suddenly. Now, just to recap what happened there, Mike Simpson...
So my guess is, Graham, is that he's got a gear selection problem, and that's probably he missed a downshift, or the gearbox didn't shift down for him when he was coming through the 4-5 complex, and that's why he went wide. And then trying to shift up, he had a problem going out of turn number 10. Now, yellow flag at the moment on the left-hand side of the road, just beyond that tricky left-hander.
It'll be a code 60 because they can't get the car back from there. So unless that car is going to be towed to a position of safety.
That is what Mike Simpson has just told the orange-suited marshals.
Oh no, he's getting back into the car. Maybe to just a quick radio call back to the pits. Meantime, Bradley Ellis has gone through to complete the lap, and in another fastest lap of the race, a 1:53.4, 7.8 seconds now ahead of the Radical.
Can they roll that car backwards? Can they roll that car backwards?
That's what I was thinking, because I wondered whether that's why Mike's parked it there.
If they can roll the car backwards, there's a gap in the arm core, between the arm core and the concrete barrier, and that will not, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Well, do you know what? That's very, very sporting driving, and a great thought from Mike Simpson, kind of what we expect from somebody of his experience. And the 57 will end its race behind the barriers at turn 11. That one is not coming back.
So to describe that lap again, John, we had the two Ginettas, the number 57 car we can see there now out of the race, and number 54, the Optimum Motorsport car, Bradley Ellis, were closing rapidly on the race leading at that point, race leading Radical as the number 17 EDEX Sports CN car comes back in, so they were closing rapidly.
That was the 81 car that was leading.
Yep, that the 81 car's lead went to the 57 Ginetta by turn 2, and by the time we got through to 5-6, the lead changed there. Then Mike went way wide on the outside. That allowed Bradley Ellis to close up, and then you saw the drama when we got to the end of the back straight. Whatever happened to the Ginetta happened suddenly at that point. Ellis back through, then through to the lead. So 3 different leaders on that lap. 57 out of the race. Ellis now pulling away in the lead. So it's the Optimum Motorsports Ginetta leading the AUH Radical, but now not the Radical, because Peter Cox has gone through to second in the 48 Ligier.
And that is the 3 different class leaders are now first, second and third, G57, P3 and CN. And by the way, Bradley Ellis, courtesy of 2 consecutive fastest laps of the race, a 53.6, then a 53.4.
And he's just in another 53, so 3 laps in the 53s, and he has to do that because Peter Cox is not that far back.
15 seconds.
Under 15 seconds back, and that gap is going out, so Coxie came out of the pits in very close proximity to the 2 Ginettas ahead. Behind, Colin White now is at the wheel of the number 55 CWS Ginetta. He is about 14 seconds back from the Radical and looking to get onto terms with both that car and Peter Cox.
We've got the number 17 car in. That's the IDEX Sport Racing. It's the Ligier, this beautiful car. It's my first opportunity today to get another up-close look at this car, and this car really is what prototype racing is all about. Not about what you can see, it's about what you can't see. That's where this car gets its grip. The aerodynamics on this car is something you'll attune to what you see in World Endurance Championship sports car racing. The car has just done its mandatory stop. It's been pretty much sat there with the driver at the wheel, being ready to go at any moment the crew tell him. The crew member standing at the front of the car, just timing the stop. It seems a little bit alien to us when we're used to seeing pit stops being done in such a rushed and hurried manner against the watch. But this way, we know what the concept is. It's all about doing things safely. These are very professional teams, but sometimes safety comes first, and that's certainly what we see here in the Creventic Prototype Series.
Thanks very much, Joe. Watching what's going on track. Colin White closing on the AUH Radical. This would be for 3rd position overall, 2nd in the G57 class, and trying to close down as well, of course, on Peter Cox in 2nd. Peter Cox falling back a little, 16 seconds back now from Bradley Ellis, leading the race for Optimum Motorsport. So it's Ginetta G57 P2 from a Ligier P3 for, at the moment, a Radical running here in the CN class. It's an SR3 1600cc car, and now has about a 6-second advantage at the end of the last lap over Colin White in the 2nd of the Ginettas, with the 2nd P3 car next up.
What is the Radical?
It's an SR3. I think
See, every time you say that, because my father's postcode is SR3 3PH,
comes from Sunderland.
I always think of the Sunderland Radical. SR3 East Harrington Radical.
It's a cracking little car. It's one of the very few. It's one of the very, very few proper race cars I've actually driven properly on a racetrack.
Have you?
Nearly killed Ian Flux.
Won't be the first time that Ian Flux was sitting beside someone that was not up to his standard. Yeah, Fluxy is a very, very good driver indeed.
He was pretty effusive in his lack of praise for my driving style. What's the rule at Daily Sports Car, boys and girls out there in the paddock? The editor doesn't drive a race car. Why? Because he can't.
I'm saying nothing.
I can't. I'm quite
things happen very quickly in a race car.
They do. You know, at the end of the day,
slow it down.
There's a reason why I write and talk about these things and don't do it.
Recently tried to kill, remember.
Let's say that again, Mr. Bradley.
I'm the most recent person Goodwin has tried to kill in an automobile.
That wasn't on a track, though.
Trying to turn left down onto the opposing carriageway.
And why did they do it, Joseph?
Having been passengered around several racetracks, I try never ever to grab the wheel off the driver and just try to offer instruction. However, reaction and I think sort of survival instinct came in, and I did grab the wheel.
He did a little. The reason I did it, by the way, is because in a stroke of genius, close to the hotel that the Ready Le Mans crew, apart from me, are staying at, the direction signs on one side of the road are exactly the same colour and exactly the same font as the advertising signs on the other side of the road, so they look like direction signs. It said the name of the complex where you're staying, and it looked, in the pitch darkness that we actually had at that point, as if that was the side of the road to go on.
Missed the no entry sign though, didn't he?
I did. I was tired.
I'm saying nothing. Let's move on to the last 42 minutes of the race. Bradley Ellis is leading by 17 seconds from Peter Cox. The gap is going out just a little bit. Colin White is on board the CWS Ginetta in third position, second in class.
Just taking third.
Just taking third position that last time around. The 1:57.2. He's not catching Peter at the moment. Question is, how did the guys get enough fuel on board to go to the end of the race? And the fourth place car is the leader in the CN. The lead has been a leader of the race overall. The AUH Motorsport Radical came third in the first of these 3-hour races yesterday and has a decent advantage over second Jean-Claude Perrin in the 85 Craft Racing car.
I'm not very keen to let Peter Cox by.
Why should he be? He's battling for position.
Well, it's not position. This is actually to stop himself going down a lap. But whether or not this is active defence or whether or not this was just an active lack of not using the mirrors, but a couple of times there that Peter Cox had to take slight avoiding action to avoid needing a new nose on that Ligier.
That Ligier in the Cox Racing maroon and grey, that is a fabulously simple and effective livery with the highlights on the airbox.
And the darkened side windows really help it. They do. They really do. True. It really does. It looks the part, that car.
It's great for people modelling it in games as well, because it means you don't have to put the driver inside.
It's been a year of development for that car. It might have been by development not necessarily for the car, because it clearly is a well-developed LMP3 car, but for Peter to coach Nico Pronk with the car. It's great to hear from Nico. We're going to see the car out in more racing. And by the way, and equally after the controversy about whether or not LMP3 cars sit comfortably here, etc., an excellent example from Nico Pronk of the fact he's not costing anybody a potential entry, because he's just told us that he's going to enter some ACO races as well.
Yeah. Well, it was a question that somebody asked earlier on, actually, and something happened that stopped me reading the tweet out. Would it be possible to drop an ACO spec LMP3 car into this series and then take it out and go and do the ELMS?
Yes, it's exactly the same car.
That's exactly the point.
The car we're looking at on screen, the number 12 Graf Racing Ligier, that car took part in last year's European Le Mans Series. You know what? It'll be taking part in this year's European Le Mans Series as well. And it's great to see what it's about here. This is a business model. Graf Racing are a professional motorsport company. They want to attract more customers to do more racing so they can have these cars out there all the time. You were talking earlier in the race, John, about the announcement of Ollie Jarvis going to the Bentley team. As I'm just watching, there's a car being flat bedded in.
I think that's the 51.
Is it? It doesn't look like that 51 to me.
Where are we?
There.
Pointing on the radio again. No, it's not. It's the 5. It's the 50 car. That was the car that stopped.
Car. It's taken a long while to come
Sorry,
back.
that's the car I meant.
That was the one that came where it was coming. Didn't look as if it was coming from turn 1. Okay, apologies. You were saying about the Ollie Jarvis news yesterday that Ollie has been appointed as the latest Bentley boy. Will be joining the Bentley Motorsport squad. And when I interviewed Ollie leading up to that announcement, one thing he said was, one of the challenges in GT3 is because you've got some very good drivers who are in those cars every week.
Yes.
There's racing every week. And to come in fairly cold, Oliver's got a lot of GT3 and success in GT3, including winning the Daytona 24 Hours for Audi's first crack at it. But you're getting into cars that are not the easiest to drive. They're certainly not the easiest to master. Against drivers of high quality, you get a lot of practice. And that's why this is important. It gives these guys an opportunity to up their skill set.
I placed before the court Jerome Blakemolen.
Yes.
Christopher Mees.
Absolutely right.
These people are in GT3 cars all around the world in various different championships every week in a formula that is, other than IMSA now, globally recognised. IMSA have decided to meddle with it for some unknown reason, which I still don't get. Well, actually, I do know exactly why they're doing it. Because
I think I know why.
Well, there's two reasons. One, they don't think that this is me talking, not IMSA. I don't think they feel that the technical regulations for GT3 are stringent enough, and I'm hardly likely to disagree with that, since I've been saying that since the formation. And the second thing, I think, rather sensibly, as we get a lock up from the 55 and Colin White going into turn 14, just proving how difficult that transition is, I think rather sensibly what IMSA are doing are protecting two of their manufacturers who contribute to the series in Lexus and Honda Acura, who don't race anywhere else in the world in GT3s, and whose cars aren't therefore necessarily BOP-able to the other GT3 cars.
And by the way, I checked, we're not, the last time I checked, and it was only a few days ago, we're not on the homologation list for GT3.
Exactly my point.
So, I think
so you can't have a full GT3 specification series when cars that are going to be racing aren't homologated to that formula.
Indeed. Back to track action. We are just under 37 minutes from the end of this race. Now, the pattern at the moment is this. Bradley Ellis leads by over 20 seconds now, in fact, almost 22 seconds. Peter Cox last time around, though, while still losing some time to Bradley, 1:54.1 for the leading Ginetta to 1:55.2 for the second place Ligier, did his fastest lap of the race. And he's fending off effectively Colin White now. Colin is not able to match that time.
Yeah.
He's 23 seconds back in the second of the Ginettas, but third place overall. Fourth overall, for the moment, is still the little Radical.
It's just done its fastest lap of the race.
2:04, because he's fending off Eric Trullier, not Benoit Trullier, it's Eric Trullier, in the Graf Ligier P3. So the Graf car in 5th position overall, but I think is about to take that 5th position overall from the Radical. And behind that
is about to happen any time now.
Yep, this is Colin White with the 85 car, isn't it? So this is the next car along, and we're waiting for that car to complete its lap. So it's a lap down on the leaders. Unfortunate about the time it had to take its pit stop by the look of things this time, after winning big time first time around.
Watch how quick the little CN car is through the centre of the corner. It's no slower at all.
Absolutely right. In fact, I think it's quicker through the centre of the corner.
I do.
It's kind of wait, power for the Ginetta. So he's doing it all almost, on the aerodynamic grip for the Ginetta, and then waiting for the straight line advantage that he's got, and then all of a sudden, bang! It's almost LMP1-like in comparison to some of the GT cars we see in WEC. So 53 car, the HHC car, I think is going back into the paddock. So the issues that car, I'm afraid, has suffered. And Charlie Robertson following it back, helmet in hand, rather than a top talented Bonce. And that, I think, the race is done for the 53.
Oh, dear me.
So now we're getting towards the final half hour, John, and this is going to be about a chase. Now, who can chase? Well, looking at James Winslow. Now, James Winslow is running in 7th position in the number 52 Simpson car. He's got slower cars ahead in other classes. So the 3 cars ahead of him are either CN or P3 cars, and he's making big inroads into that, but needs to do that to make positions up.
But interestingly, the car behind, the IDEC Sport number 17, with Frederic de Rocha, has just done 2 laps quicker than Winslow.
That
in the
is a hell of a lap in that car.
57.4 and a 57.3 by Frederic de Rocha in the IDEC Sport Ligier CN car.
That is a hell of a lap in a CN car.
That's an extraordinary lap in that car. They were down to the 56s yesterday. Yesterday in that Ligier, I think. That is an extraordinary lap in that little car.
What feast?
Mind, he's been in there for nearly an hour and a half as Frederic.
Okay, the car's light. It's light already, but it's light already. You know what, John? It is a bit of a feast the next few weeks, isn't it? We've got, if you like, it's the starter here. This is you're being offered here your prawn cocktail of motorsports.
Right, that Ligier is a 4-cylinder 2-litre running at 570 kilos.
570 kilos.
The Wolf, there's a choice of 2. The supercharged 1600 or the normally aspirated 2-litre.
I think they're both 2-litre cars here.
The Radical is a 1500.
Oh, 15, not 1600.
The RSX SR3.
Yeah.
And that runs at 550 kilos.
So
that's 20 kilos lighter.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of... and by the way, there's about 30 cars that include Akias, Bicknells, Caterhams, Gibsons, Caterham SP300R, Junos, various Ligiers, Merlin, Lucchini, Osella, Radical, Tiger, Tatus and Wolves. So that's great. In PX, we've got Renaults, Radicals, the bigger engine cars, the Praga,
the Funnios,
the Funio SP05s, Ginetta G57, 6.2 litre 8-cylinder, obviously. And in P3, a Deso 3, Ginetta P3.
They will be the 5, yeah.
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 And the G57, I know, is running at 900 kilos.
Well,
I looked at that. I did stop eating for half a day.
31 minutes to go, 23 seconds now the gap. And the moment the pattern is this: Peter Cox is chasing Bradley Ellis, but not making inroads into that. 57.1 now for Frederic de Rocha. Actually catching the G57 ahead of him.
He's almost, in fact, he's just over a lap down on James Winslow, but he's catching him and may get that lap back anytime soon.
That's fantastic.
He's brilliant. Bradley Ellis doing what Bradley Ellis needs to do. Solid laps in the mid 155s, 155.3 last time around.
Can we call this a kind of banquet of motorsport at Radio Le Mans, John? Going to follow that theme through.
It's a smorgasbord.
Because this weekend, after we've had this choice, this kind of this sampler of starters for the 3x3 hours, you've then got the first of your 2 main courses.
Oh dear.
With the Dubai 24 hours, then the Daytona 24 hours in what, just over a fortnight's time, and then for dessert, 12 hours of Aussie glory.
It's a rich dessert.
It's a rich dessert.
Just as an amuse-bouche in between, by the way, because it is small and happens very quickly. Race of Champions, which is not a Radio Show Limited thing, but I'll be working on that. And I've been told, a lot of questions bouncing around, there will be a non-geo block feed on the Race of Champions site.
Oh wow.
And welcoming to the Race of Champions family a number of new cars this year, and joining Neil Cole, Jenny Gow and me as part of the international broadcast crew, none other than the broadcasting giant, in every sense, because he's a tall man, that is Bob Varsha.
Oh really?
Yeah.
What a lovely man he is.
I get to work with one of my broadcast heroes for the first time. He and I swapped emails about it actually recently. all of the times we've been at endurance racing on some of the longest tracks in the world together, and we end up for the first time on the same broadcast on the shortest track with the race distance of the shortest time.
Bob introduced himself to me in a lift in Austin a couple of years ago, and you know, asked whether or not, having seen the shirt, asked whether or not I was Graham Goodwin, blah blah blah, shake of hands, etc. Handed me his business card, and it's that pure American glory of a business card that says Bob Varsha Talent. Love it.
It's such a Bob Varsha gentleman. Actually,
he's great. He's great.
This from Rob Chalmers on at Specutainment and at DSA. Could the old DPs be running PX?
I see no reason why. My guess is that they would be welcomed.
Yeah, I think too.
You know, bear in mind they've been balanced against P2 cars for the last season or two in IMSA. There are a couple of those DP cars in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one in the UK, isn't there?
There is indeed.
That's an older model, in fairness.
Yep.
But yes, absolutely.
There's more than one in the UK. There's one of the track cars.
Of course there is, yeah, with the 2 seats in it.
Nigel... can't remember his name. Craig Dolby drove it.
Yeah. The...
wanted to say Farmer, but it's not.
I know who you mean. The interest for me is this could be a lovely mix of some of the latest machinery and prototypes, along with some, to put this title on prototypes might seem a bit odd, but with some of the young timers that are out there, because you know some of the prototype cars that are 2016 and pre-vintage have their roots going back quite a long way, like the mighty 46.
In a different context, not entirely, but a different context. Actually, a conversation last night as we left the circuit with Stephen Kilby from DSC plays exactly to this. We went past a car I'd never seen live until last night. It will be in the 24 hours this year. It's the Brocanet Silver Sting. Okay, based on a Porsche Cup car. It's 11 years old. It was a regular here, won the class twice here. And that car is back for the first time since 2011. It's not homologated GT car, and variety now, you see variety, but you don't see the odd specials, and that I hope will be welcomed here. And that's this is where you might come to see cars you've never seen before,
like the Glickenhaus.
Like the Glickenhaus. Oh, now there you go. Get on the phone to James. Are you listening, guys?
Running into the last 26 minutes, and just before we leave that, if we look at the Hankook 24 hours and the history of this event, and remember that it will be a 12 hours, it's Nigel Mustill, thanks Josh.
Thanks very much, Josh.
Who has that 2-seater DPI. The history of this event, and bear in mind the prototypes will have their own 12-hour race the weekend before next year. That's January the 7th, 2018. Yes, the date is set already. The following weekend will be the 24 hours for the GTs and the touring cars. The worst entry that they have ever had here was 56 cars, and that was in the first year of 2006. It has grown every year.
Almost double now. Almost double now.
It's grown every year since then. So, all right, we started off with 18, 20 cars here for this event. There's nothing to suggest that that won't grow for next year. And maybe 5 years down the line, we could be looking, and there's no reason why we couldn't be looking at 30 or 40 cars here.
I think that's a perfectly achievable aim. And bear in mind that, you know, with the nature of the beast means that you get cars that have still got a lot of racing left in them that perhaps don't have a place in a one-make series anymore. You know, that perhaps don't have that opportunity to go and do what they were designed for.
But termed a GT or a touring car.
Well, exactly. And you know what we've got here is
an idea, by the way, of running the RSO1s the way they were meant to be run.
Well, can you imagine RSO1s racing in their own class against Glickenhauses?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be fabulous.
Absolutely. So effectively, you've got almost like the old
by the way,
GTP.
I'm visualising right now in the Creventic race control area at the moment. Get James on the phone. Get him on the phone.
Well, what you've got there, if this is a prototype category, this is called a Proto Series.
Yes.
You've got GTP.
Yes.
Effectively, that becomes GTP.
John, this could easily become the kind of championship that got me interested in sports car racing in the first place. It's the place where you see cars you see nowhere else.
When you think of what you used to see what I used to see at Croft when Croft came back racing, and you had a mixed grid of everything. You know, that had been that you would have some individual races over a race weekend, but that the Formula Libre, as Joe Bradley reminds me in my ear, where you would get anything from big banger GTs to some of the specials, the Wendy Wool's special saloons,
yes,
which were effectively small prototypes.
They were.
Let's be honest.
Great to watch.
And Joe Bradley, you might have seen a Formula 1 car running in a Formula Libre race.
I saw my very first Formula 1 car back in 1978. It was a Shadow DN1, former UOP Shadow from 1973. It was in bright yellow. I have no idea who was driving it, but it was like pretty awesome round Croft. That's the old Croft with the old railway straight.
Yep.
Followed by Spa into Oxo, through the turn, through the brick wall chicane and onto the start finish straight.
Amazing. And that is all right. I'm not suggesting that we, open it up completely to that, but cars that are of a particular type that just don't fit anywhere else. Hello, we've just found a home for you. And as I said before, given that Creventic are pretty much, you tell us what you've got, and we'll find a way to make you interested, and get you into our race. Love it. Love the idea. Michael says, definitely do with more of this 24-hour proto on the race watching schedule. Great stuff. Well, as we've just said, I'm going to say this again, because I've tweeted it out as well, but the race dates are out for next year. It's the 7th, which is Sunday the 7th, for a 12-hour race here at Dubai for the prototypes.
9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
local time. And that means that the 24-hour weekend, next weekend, is the following weekend to that. So that's...
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you...
So that's the 11th, 12th and 13th.
Yep.
Will be the Hankook 24 hours next year. Is that right? Or is that...
it'll be the following weekend. Yes, so it's the 7th and the 14th. So after the Christmas break, the kids 13th. Are back at school. 13th,
Friday
14th,
and Saturday.
correct.
Yeah.
Kids are back at school. Get Granny and Granddad round. They can look after the kids for a couple of weekends. Come on and have a festival of motorsport. Come on and see it live.
I love it. And by the way,
it's the Dubai Shopping Festival the same week.
Yes, exactly right. I'm told, by the way, by the locals that I've been talking to, they are expecting a bigger crowd than we've seen at any time in the past. There's been extensive radio advertising on Dubai 92. There has been a concerted effort among those people who are interested in cars to get to them. And all right, are we going to see 100,000 people here?
No, of course we're
not. But with the grandstands being thrown open for the start from the start of the race, with a food festival being running behind us here at the same time, which makes our life a bit easier because it's just straight down in the lift and outside to the food trucks, with various car displays and free entry to the paddock. Baby steps.
But I'll give you a great example of the attitude that's adopted here. As I was going back from commentary yesterday through the tunnel, just behind me, one of the circuit staff passed me as I came through the double doors to go to the pedestrian tunnel, and a young couple had wandered in off the street. The gates were open yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wandered in off the street, and a guy asked very politely, do you work here? Yes, I do. What's going on? And I stopped because I wondered whether or not I could help, because I wasn't sure whether or not the person knew. Stopped and listened to a perfect advertisement for the weekend from the member of staff from the Dubai Autodrome as to what was going on, what was available to you, how it wasn't going to cost them anything for the next couple of days at all.
Yeah.
And those two went, and I watched them, sat and watched night practice in the grandstands for absolutely no money whatsoever and had a thoroughly good time.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well done.
The hotel staff at the Intercontinental Festival City, those that aren't working at the weekend, are coming. And they've expressed a lot of interest. They knew that this was on. And
as did mine, and we're 20 minutes away.
Yeah. It's very interesting. It's beginning to get a little bit of traction. As I said in commentary yesterday, I think part of that are teams like AUH and local license holders. There aren't many of them, but they do get it's growing, and they do get coverage in the local press, and there is still a healthy printed local press here, which is promoting this event.
Yep, it's great. It's great to see, and it is growing. Again, it's another iteration, John, isn't it? What we talk about every year when we go to Bahrain for the FIWEC. Are you going to get a massive crowd? No, you're not. But my oh my, Bahrain and in Dubai, they put a lot of European circuits to shame with the effort they put into both promotion and in giving people entertainment at the track. It's great to see it, and more power to you. I'm not a fan of those that decry the fact that international motorsport comes here for very good reasons, for all sorts of reasons, and as part of that, the industry here is developing and they're growing a following, and it will be significant in years to come.
Yeah, and as we said, we're doing business here.
Yeah,
there was a
absolutely.
Wolf chassis sold yesterday. That's why it's not out here. Very, very interesting. And hello to Andy Blackmore, busy drawing IMSA cars for the official spotter guides, and he'd like to say hello to Lap 57 in the Saudi Arrows, who are carrying his liveries in the 24-hour, the Hankook 24-hour of Dubai at the weekend.
Good people working with good people. We'd like to see that. Happy New Year to you and the family, Andy.
Oh, question, Andy. Have you had a winning car in this race? You've had Saudi Falcons. They didn't win.
Is it hashtag blame Andy? Let's wait and see whether or not he's gone to bed yet, and we'll see. He'll be back
a minute ago. I think he's probably still listening. We'll see if he can get it.
Instantly, I'm sure, with the answer if the answer is yes, and instantly with some decrying comments if the answer is no.
Robert Kubica, of course, among us, I think we've mentioned a few times, back in the series after he was out at Mugello with one of his old rally buddies, and had a long chat with Robert on the flight, the internal flight, on the way back from his test of the... he tested the Collis car, yes, at Bahrain, and he had the misfortune to be sitting behind me as we did the bounce over to Doha from Bahrain, and had a chat with him, and really wants to get his circuit racing career back on course. Still a very talented driver, and
I'm massively impressed with his application there, I have to tell you.
Absolutely. Midweek motorsport to come later on today, as usual, on Wednesday, 8 o'clock in the UK. And you can do the arithmetic yourself around the rest of the world. We don't quite have the gaps in the schedule to do one live here today. Although I'll in terms of in between the races, I'll ask Tim actually if we have, but we will be on the air at 8 o'clock UK tonight, which is midnight here, so if we sound a little jaded, I apologise. Listen out for an interview that we've already got with Ollie Jarvis, the latest Bentley boy. Spoke to us last weekend ahead of the announcement, and our thanks to Bentley, to M Sport, and to Ollie for allowing us the courtesy of doing that, so that we could get that into this week's show and know that we had that one without any technical sweat.
Yep, similar golf clap, and with thanks to the guys at Bentley Motorsport for allowing us to have that conversation and trusting us to respect the embargoes, and delight to do so, and great to see another man with talent whose career is continuing despite woes for the programme he was involved in. We've got, just over 15 minutes to go. The order, by the way, Bradley Ellis doing a fine job and running a conservative strategy, I think, now, fending off Peter Cox. The gap is 25.7 seconds, but Peter Cox doing a great job of keeping the cars. Colin White power slides the 55 car through.
So much fun.
But he's dropping back from Peter Cox.
You mean sideways Colin White?
Sideways Colin White.
So CWS actually means, whatever anybody else says, Colin White sideways.
Absolutely.
That's what it means. Andy Blackmore has come back to us. He said, of course he's had a winning car. It was the Need for Speed car, the Z4 with the glowing mesh livery. And I remember, I have a very large poster of that car. and the Saudi Falcons led the race 4 years ago, although I don't believe went on to race. I have an even larger poster of that car as well.
Fourth position, by the way, is the second of the P3 cars. It's the Graf Racing Ligier, number 12 car, which won the race yesterday. It's had another faultless run here, but unfortunately for them, some of the other quicker cars have had an equally faultless go at this. Fifth is the leader in the CN class, and that is the 85 car that led the race overall, and now a couple of laps back from the lead cars.
Super impressed with Peter Cox. Yeah. And I think he'd be the first to admit that he's not in the first flush of youth.
He's in the car, he can't hear us, we can say anything.
It'll get back to him. However, his enthusiasm is undiminished and his talent is not even dented. It is an extraordinary run he's having in that Ligier.
Has driven everything and still a very rapid race driver. It's just
in anything you put him in, yeah.
Absolutely, and of course, as you said earlier, John, has attracted in a factory interest as part of that Acura effort now.
I thought it was interesting that he said that he valued doing the development on that car as much, if not more, as actually being selected as a race driver.
Absolutely, because he understands it back to front now, inside out and sideways, and he's been rewarded for his testing efforts with the Acura, with that race drive in the Pirelli World Challenge, with the real-time racing crew. Ryan Eversley, the other full-season driver there. And it's great to see him in gainful employment. Keeps him out of trouble, I think, keeps him off the streets.
The NSX was at Ledoux, wasn't it? For the test, or was it not?
No, I think the NSX wasn't, the Lexus was. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
But that we don't get very reliable information from the Ledoux test.
Which it is a closed test.
Yeah, but, yeah.
It's something that could be looked at, isn't it?
It's something that, to be honest with you...
there is a part of me, and I'm sure that some of our listeners and viewers share this, I would like to know how it works.
Well, yeah, and there's not. I have requested it. I mean, I've actually spoken to FIA about a range of things about, look, a bit of clarity about what happened afterwards. I don't want necessarily, I would like to see the times, but they're not as relevant for a BOP thing. But who was there?
Working out.
Yeah, who was there would be a good start.
Yeah. Our leader is on the middle straight. Bradley Ellis has got just on 24 seconds and lost a tenth or so to Peter Cox last time around. It's holding steady around about that 24, 25, 23 seconds.
He's held, yes, exactly right. Should say, by the way, they didn't have to be at Ledoux for that test. The way the system works, as I understand it, is you can have your performance assessed later, but you've got to pay for it.
Yeah.
You as a factory have then got to, soak that up.
10 minutes to go. Are we seeing the first victory in Dubai for the Ginetta G57 P2? 5 laps remaining for Bradley Ellis.
11 minutes and 24 seconds the gap. Peter Cox can't make inroads on that on pace. I'm just looking for where we might see any changes. And the change I'm looking for, and I think it's going to happen, is we're going to see a change second to third. And again, in the dying moments of this race, it's the E-Tech Sport car is catching the Radical, catching it rapidly. So
that Ligier with the now that's
rapid,
just had a change of driver
half an hour ago by the look of things.
Yeah.
I wonder whether or not they've adjusted timing on this one, because I didn't see that car make that stop. Just watching, by the way, the 57 car being flatbedded back into the paddock.
Yeah, so behind that E-Tech, we were talking about Frederic de Rocha at the end of his stint, and he has handed over to Roman Wozniak. And Roman was a man on a mission at the end of the race yesterday, and basically, I don't know what they'd done to him before they'd put it in. They'd badmouthed his wife, mother, sister, slapped him around with raw meat.
They let his kids go after the race, it's fine.
Whatever they did, it worked, because he was absolutely on it.
He's about to take second place. He's about to take second place because he is right on the tail of the Radical. So the dying moments of yesterday's race, he took the lead. I've just watched him do it down the back straight. He's just gone through and taken the second position in CN.
As the Michael Simpson driven 57 comes back into the back of the paddock. This was the car that Michael Simpson pulled out of a very strong position and did it in a very sportsmanlike way on the run-up from turn 11 to turn 12, rolled the car backwards with the help of a couple of marshals into a gap in the arm court so that we didn't interrupt the proceedings. That was tremendously sportsmanlike as our leader completes his 77th lap with just on 9 minutes to go.
What a different race we've had in the second of these 3-3-hour races, characterised by not so much the misadventure, the misfortune that we saw yesterday from many of the runners, but from pure pace, a bit of strategy and a bit of luck.
Although, yeah, with 53.4 is the fastest lap that we've seen, and that is by the leading car.
It is indeed. It's been pace has been the story here. It could have been a miraculous result for a CN car, but good luck with the timing of the first stop turned to bad luck with the timing of the second. Up, as we said, into seventh position overall for the EDEC Sport car, into second position in CN. CN at the moment looks like going to the Craft Racing Norma.
And P3 looks to be going to the 48, the dark grey and maroon. Number 48 Ligier still moving around through turn 8 into 9 and now onto that long straight on the far side of the circuit from us. And what's notable, particularly from this distance, Graham, is just how the G57 P2 has an advantage on those Ligiers coming out of the medium speed corners.
Absolutely.
It really hooks up very much quicker and accelerates visually faster, to the point where even if they've come out of turn 9 together, by the time they get into the braking area for turn 10 or just before the braking area for turn 10, it's probably 2 or 3 cars lengths.
There we go. This is the Norma CN car versus the Ligier P3 car. Peter Cox making sure his
down the inside into turn 14.
Was seen late there, I think, by the CN driver. This
not a pass for position. That was another lap going on to the Craft Racing leading CN car in what, 5th position.
And let's not forget that car led overall for quite some time, courtesy of some good fortune and timing for its first pit stop.
Oh, they timed it brilliantly.
Just under 7 minutes to go now as we approach midday here.
Jean-Charles Perrin in that leading car. They'll clock that victory, I'm fairly certain. 6.5 minutes to go. You've got to be a little bit careful about what you're seeing here.
Peter Cox is about to lap the other P3 car. He's closing pretty rapidly. A couple of seconds a lap being taken out of Trullier.
Eric Trullier in the number 12 Graf Ligier, which won the race yesterday.
He did run the race overall yesterday. That won't be happening today unless we have a meteorite strike and something else happening consecutively.
Well, funny you should say that, but if you just look up to the left, no. Not even the best of the P3s today. Such are the slings and arrows of outrageous prototype fortune.
But remember, the Cox Racing car had that long stop and hold yesterday.
Yeah.
And Nico Pronk drove the car well. Peter Cox is, well, let's face it, Peter Cox.
Lawrence Tomlinson said it yesterday, actually, that you've got to be perfect to win these races.
I think that's exactly right.
And I don't think you should look at that as a bad thing. You know, you and I, Graham, are long enough in the tooth to remember, even at such prestigious races as Le Mans, where some of the classes, and certainly the junior prototype classes, whatever it was called at the time, be it 675, LMP2, whatever, was who doesn't have the 3-hour pit stop has got a chance of winning.
Absolutely right. You're completely right. And what this is, it's sort of a middle way, isn't it? We've got that lovely mixed class thing here, John. We've got cars that are still in development as well, which means that you build in a little bit of potential and reliability. You've got cars that are being developed rapidly, including the G57 P2, which we've seen when it's running perfectly is a spectacular piece of kit. but is also able to be fixed to come back for another battle back, which is something, again, that sometimes we miss nowadays in contemporary sports car racing. But and a great example, by the way, of that in the third-place car in G57, running 6th at the moment, James Winslow will not have enough time to chase down the Craft Racing Norma for 5th position. That's a car that had an engine change and all sorts of woes yesterday. This was the car, if you recall, that was on pit road with the emulsified gunk coming out of...
awful.
Didn't it? But that car is going to get a podium.
Yeah.
And that's why sports car racing is a team game.
Rotation up north. Tell you what, this prototype series might just catch on.
Correctamundo.
I think he's... yeah. Running during the week's not the worst thing either, clearly.
Nope.
From the amount of you who are tuned in around the world.
Should say, by the way, that we did say about the car that runs perfectly will win the race. Well, the car that looks like winning it at the moment didn't run perfectly.
No.
They had that early run down pit road, didn't they? They had the penalty for...
They missed the close of the grid, didn't they?
They had a drive-through early doors. And that comes down to pace from all three of the drivers, James French, Carl Masson and Bradley Ellis.
Frenchie, in particular, James French was absolutely extraordinary in that.
Here comes the lap going on the yesterday's race winning P3 car from Peter Cox. Peter Cox goes up the inside.
Squeeze in turn 14.
Oh, he doesn't want that to happen there, does he?
Well, no. And, you know, this is bad. That's fine. You're allowed this. There will be blue flags, but this is not like some races where if you pass 3 flags, a large hole opens up and you drop into a parallel universe.
I have to tell you, no blue flags being shown as they cross the line.
Side by side, the two Ligiers head down over the top of the brow and now downhill towards turn 1 and now hit the brakes. And Peter Cox has got down the inside, moderates his braking. The hardest thing in these downforce cars with no ABS, how good can you brake? How efficiently can you brake without locking up your tyres? It's a real skill. You'll have to get that pedal pressure absolutely right. And the added complication to that, Graham, is that when you're going very fast down the front straight and you first hit the brakes, you've got the addition of all of the downforce helping the wheels not lock.
Absolutely.
As you slow down, that bleeds away, and therefore you've got to feather back off the brakes. It's very counterintuitive.
Beautiful drive so far from Peter Cox. Excellent stuff from the 54 car. We're into the final 2 minutes now, waiting to see the number 54 car cross the line for what will be the start of its final lap of the second of these three-hour preview races for the 24H Proto Series.
Colin White in 3rd position. Can't lose that now as he starts what will be his last lap. The bright fluorescent yellow and teal blue colours looking very, very handsome on the G57. Through goes Bradley Ellis under our feet. The 48 of Peter Cox yet to complete his 81st lap. Will stay on the lead lap as he comes around with about a minute to go. He's in the final corner now, but already coming through turns 2 and 3. Bradley Ellis for Optimum in the 54 car. And in fact, in turn 7 now, that car.
30 seconds to the good as they cross the line to the start of the final lap from Peter Cox.
Our leader heading through 8 into 9. That banked left-hander all the way out to the red and white curb. No, it doesn't need to. Bradley Ellis is stroking the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta home. We've spoken about Optimum in Ginettas before, but that's normally been GT cars winning SP2 or SP3. The last lap board is out. I think the leader's already seen that. With just 8 seconds to go, this will be his last lap. He climbs the hill towards the point furthest to our right. New development all the way around the Dubai Autodrome. Turn 12 over the top of the brow and the exit there. Easy with the car being light to be over aggressive on the throttle and lose the rear end. Now through the absolutely flat out kink at 13, then hard on the brakes for 14. The horseshoe. Let the car breathe in the centre. Drag it back to the second apex, and again square the car up over the top of the brow for 15, and then 16 is the final right-handed corner. Time has elapsed, and the second of the Hankook 3x3H prototype races here at Dubai is going to Janetta, and it's going to Optimum Motorsport. Bradley Ellis takes the checkered flag and wins part 2 of 3. Coming home in second place at about a minute will be, at about 30 seconds rather, will be Peter Cox.
Fabulous stuff. So we've had a P3 car win race 1, a G57 win race 2. We've got one more of these 3-hour races to come. And from what we've been seeing, John, and from what we've been hearing with feedback from the audience, this has been a very welcome addition indeed to the 24H Series family. Will this go from strength to strength? I think all the signs are that it most certainly will. Very happy campers down in the paddock as well before the circuit closed the night last night, and I think we're going to see cars coming in numbers to join this family. This is great stuff.
Rob Chalmers says, loving listening to the 24-hour proto. Tuesday lunchtime, Wednesday morning commute.
Absolutely.
And later on as well, in terms of the racing into the darkness today, and if you can get connected and watch the live video, as far be it from me ever to say don't listen to the radio, but on radiolemans.com, on the Dubai 24 proto page, there is a pop-out player, and we are streaming in sound and vision synced on there. If you haven't got the bandwidth or you're travelling, fair enough, get on the stream for the audio only. But if you can watch the pictures tonight in the dark, there's something almost a little illicit, isn't there, about motor racing in the dark. In the classes, Graham, P3 second for Cox Racing.
Well, final 2 cars have just crossed the line. They're both podium sitters as well, but in the classes, Peter Cox finishes second overall and will be on 2 different podiums because he also wins the P3 class, second in P3 in the last of those 2 runners. The Graf Racing car comes home in 4th position overall. Colin White's just crossed the line, second in the G57 class, but 3rd overall. 3rd of the G57s will be James Winslow crossing across the line in the Simpson Motorsport car. And we'll come to CN cars in a moment, John.
So the Optimum Motorsport win by just under half a minute from Cox Racing's Ligier, who takes the P3 spoils. The overall completed by Colin White in his team in the G50. P3 second place in 4th. CN cars 5th position. Norma, just a couple of laps. That's less than 5 minutes back in 3 hours of racing for the Craft Racing Norma. And the second and third in the CN category, IDEC Sport and AUH Motorsports, get a second podium of the weekend for the local team. That is very impressive indeed. And at the line, by the way, AUH, well, what happened there? Because they were closing in and they were ended up... oh no, they did swap over, excuse me, of course, yes, yeah. The IDEC car got ahead of AUH. So that's a second consecutive podium for IDEC and AUH.
Absolutely right. So cracking stuff as well, by the way, from the CN cars. 85 led that race overall and came back with the class win, 5th overall then for the CN cars. So the winners in the 3 classes all featured in the top 5. So it's a Norma from a Ligier from a Radical, the podium for the CN cars.
Couple of problems in the G57 categories, but other than that, we had a good finishing ratio. Let's head down to the pit lane.
A total lack of Optimum Motorsport drivers with Bradley Ellis in the car. I've got Carl Lloyd. Carl, you're probably more important than any of the drivers. You're the #1 mechanic on the winning car. Just tell me, from the back of the grid this one,
Yeah, it was from the back of the grid. We had the drivers turned up late. The teams worked really well. We put it all together. Optimum's mega team. So we started at the back. We had a small drive-through penalty at the start for not being in the right place at the right time. We sorted the strategy. Taka was the mega on the strategy, and we ended up here.
Great stuff. Now you've already got thinking about the seedings. Third 3-hour race. We're going to celebrate on the podium first, though, but already thoughts towards this evening and fettling the car for that?
Yeah, obviously we've got a strategy in place. We'll start from the scratch. We've got a plan to work to, and we'll just stick to the plan, and hopefully we'll end up in the same place at the end.
We'll celebrate for now and then back to work this evening. Thanks, Carl.
Cheers, fella. Ta-da.
And when he says the drivers turned up late, that wasn't the driver's fault. He wasn't blaming them.
No.
They were stuck because of travel difficulties and had not even seen the cars till this morning.
Amazing stuff. James French, Carl Masson were over the weekend at Daytona for the Raw Before the Rolex 24 Hours. Shay Adam covering that for RadioLeMans.com. And had not seen, you're quite right, the G57. So they've driven two Chevy LS3 prototypes last few days. They turned up this morning at the circuit. Their first chance to drive that car was when they got in it for the race. Starting from the back of the grid, there was the issue about the car having joined the grid a little late. So there was the drive-through for James French, drive-through the field from James, and then a further drive-through, by the way, up to second position before he pitted the car.
Yes.
Overall, Carl Masson then got through and did much the same thing, and Bradley Ellis to the finish. What a great race from Optimum Motorsport. What a great way for them to start the week, by the way, because of course they've got a couple of cars in the Dubai 24 Hours at the weekend.
And add to that at the fastest lap of the race at 1:53.440. Just checking through for that. Yes, indeed.
In fact, the top three overall, we've got two teams that will have cars in the Dubai 24 Hours at the weekend, because I'm pretty certain that Colin White's got the GT car in there as well.
Yes, he has, absolutely. And he takes his teammate with him. To that, some traffic and travel news for you. The Forth Road Bridge is shut in just on the north side of Edinburgh there. So those of you wanting to get to work today, like rotation, either take the train or get away now, because you're going to have to go the long way round.
That's a very long way round.
Yes. Or if you're going north, to go to Knock Hill for any time soon from Edinburgh. I'm not sure if it's closed in both directions. That'll be weather related. Weather blowing in through the UK in the next couple of days. Thank you for being with us. No weather worries here. It has cleared to the greater extent. When we come back, we'll have the third and final instalment of the Hankook 3x3 Prototype Cup Challenge here at the Dubai Autodrome. Thanks to Joe Bradley and Nick Damon down in the pit lane, to Graham Goodwin, editor of dailysportscar.com. Alongside me, John Hindhaugh, our technical team out on the cameras and cutting the pictures. As ever, the guys from 0221 were fantastic and have made sure that we could see parts of the track that we can't from our vantage point, which actually you are looking back on now. We're about the third or fourth box along on that top level, looking back from the camera there. And as ever, to Ulf, who's been our conduit here in the booth. The responsible adult here overlooking everything here in thought, mind, word and deed from all of us was Eve Hewitt, and Tim Gray was our executive producer back at RSL main control room back in the UK. We'll be doing this again later on today when these cars race into darkness. Now, you wouldn't want to miss that, would you? So make sure you tune in again. Check the website for details, www.24hseries.com or radiolemans.com, and we'll join you for more midweek racing, and the prototypes are back at the Dubai Autodrome later today. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our second podium ceremony, the second of three, and our overall winners to be presented to the podium. So please welcome in third place, car 55, the CWS Janetta of Colin White, Brandon Jovic and Jason Kupal. Congratulations guys, third place overall. In second place, car 48 is the Cox Racing Ligier, Peter Cox and Nico Pronk. The winners of our second prototype series race, car 54, please welcome Optimum Motorsports, Ed Barwick, Bradley Ellis, Kyle Masson and James French. Congratulations guys. And now, the national anthem of our winning team, Optimum Motorsport. Congratulations to our overall winning teams and drivers. Trophies are to be presented by Ole Dorleman of Creventic and Manfred Sandbichler of Hankook Tyres. So congratulations once again to our third place team, the number 55 Ginetta of the CWS team, Colin White, Brandon Godvich and Jason Kupal. Round of applause for our third place team. Second place, the Ligier of Cox Racing, Car 48, Peter Cox and Nico Pronk. And the winners of race number 2, our second prototype series race, Optimum Motorsports, Ginetta, Car 54, Bradley Ellis, Kyle Masson and James French. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations, everyone. Raise your trophies in the air for our trophy shoots. A big round of applause, please. Round of applause for our overall winners. Thank you, gentlemen. Don't go too far for our class wins. The first of our class presentations will be for our P3 class, and please welcome back to the podium our overall winners yesterday is the Graf Racing Ligier Car 12 of Eric Trullier, Frank Matelli and Edward Lewis Bronner. Well done. Second place in our P3 category, and the winners of the P3 category, please welcome back to the podium Car 48, Peter Cox, Nico Prong, Cox Racing's Ligier. And once again our trophy presenters, Ole Dorleman of Creventic and Manfred Sandbichler of Hankook Tyres. Big round of applause for our second place car, the Graf Racing Ligier, Eric Trullier, Frank Matelli and Edward Lewis Bronner. And the class winners for our P3 class, the Cox Racing Ligier of Peter Cox and Nico Prong. Congratulations to our P3 winners. Hold those trophies high. Well done, gentlemen. Thank you. The next trophy presentation will be for our G57 class, the Ginetta G57 class. Please, big round of applause for our third place car, the number 52 Simpson Motorsport Ginetta of James Winlow and John Corbett. James Winlow and John Corbett, third in class, third in the G57. James Winlow, everybody, big round of applause. In second place, please welcome back our third place car overall, but second in the G57 class, car 55, the CWS Ginetta of Colin White, Brandon Godovich and Jason Kupal. Sideways Colin White onto the podium once again. Second place in the G57 class. And the winners of the G57 class are indeed our overall winners, the number 54 Optimum Motorsport Ginetta of Bradley Ellis, Kyle Masson and James French. Well back, guys, well done. 2 trophies. And please welcome Ole Dorleman of Creventic and Manfred Sandbichler of Hankook Tyres to once again present our class winners, this time for our G57 Ginetta class. And the Simpson Motorsport Ginetta of James Winlow. In second place, the number 55 CWS Ginetta of Sideways Colin White, Brandon Govich and Jason Koopel. And the winners of the G57 class, the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta of Bradley Ellis, Kyle Masson and James French. And raise those trophies, gentlemen, raise those trophies high for the photograph. Big round of applause, everybody, for our G57 class. Thank you, gentlemen, well done, congratulations, we'll see you out this evening. No doubt you'll be wanting to continue your winning ways. Our third and final class then for our second prototype race, this time for our production sports cars, the Group CN. In third place, please welcome car 81, the AUH Motorsports Radical of Konstantin Gukiev and Tarek El Gamal. Did I get that right? Thanks, El Gamal. Well done, guys. Third place there. In second place, the number 17, IDEX Sport Racing Ligier of Froderic de Rocha, Nicolas de Rocha, David Abramovic and Roman Wozniak. Well done, guys. Second place in the CN class. And the winner of our CN class, the number 85 Craft Racing Norma of Francois Kerman, Daniel Kerman and Jean-Charles Perrin, mid-race leaders overall, these guys. These guys led the race at half distance. Congratulations to our CN teams and drivers. And once again, trophies to be presented by Ola Dorleman of Creventic and Manfred Sambickler of Hankook Tires. Third place, then car 81, the Radical of AUH Motorsports, Konstantin Gukiev and Tarek El Gamal. Thank you. In second place, the IDEX Sport Racing Ligier, car 17 of Froderic de Rocha, Nicolas de Rocha, David Abramovic and Roman Wozniak. Congratulations, a very fine second place in class. And the winners of our CN class, the number 85 Craft Racing Norma, Francois Kerman, Daniel Kerman and Jean-Charles Perrin. Congratulations to our teams and drivers for our CN class winners. Hold those trophies high, gentlemen, for our photograph. Congratulations. Thank you, gentlemen. And we will see you this evening for our final, the third and final race for our Prototype Series event here at the Dubai 24-hour meeting. Good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations, and we'll see you this evening.
So, Graham,